Hello, everyone, and welcome to a late May edition of ADP Chasing. To be honest, there's not much news going on right now, but we'll be still diving in to backup running back situations to try to uncover this year's Kyren Williams. Let's do it.
ADP Chasing is for when you watch Ship Chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
And the targets per outrun leagues, that's going to be really nice.
Actually, back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes, all your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a Deuce Vaughn show.
It's anti-cabal. It's the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because, I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But, man. That intro still gets me every time.
It still slaps. It still slaps. Yeah.
It's 27th time. It's still good. So before the show, Davis, Pat, and I we're talking about whether Juju Smith-Schuster or KJ Osborne is more likely to make the Patriots. So that's a sign of
KJ by a lot, right?
Really good news week here in the NFL. Just not a lot's going on.
There's not many risers. There's not many fallers. Any riser or faller is either boredom or Leone moved the ranks. Like Leone moved some guy. if Leone,
which is also boredom at this point.
Which is if Leone adjusted Rachaad White's target share with Bucky Irving 3%, that would have made it into our sheet from this last week. Yeah, it just would have. Yeah, that's where we're at.
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah, I mean so to give a summary of today's show, we'll do a very quick risers and fallers. I think I'll add it to the screen now for people watching on YouTube. The only really newsworthy thing to discuss, and it's a bit of a stretch to call it newsworthy, Zay Jones signed with the Cardinals last week. He's up 18 spots, now kind of in the 17th, 18th round pick range. Correspondingly, Michael Wilson is down about 10 spots with some more uncertainty about his role there. Definitely not the sexiest topic to hit on to start the show, but start with you, Davis. Any thoughts on how are you playing this Cardinals late round wide receiver situation? Because there definitely is room, I think, for a third guy to be relevant after Marvin Harrison and McBride.
Zay, you only ever want with Kyler. You would never take Kyler, or you would never take Zay without him. Whereas I think the positive thing it does is it means you can get Dortch at less than 70% drafted, 50% drafted, and you can get him on round 20 on DK, which is huge. I think
sub 50% by the time the tournament closes, unless we get some big news.
Yeah, but Dortch is good. Zay Jones and Michael Wilson are not good at earning targets. Scott Barrett always tweets this. It's like Dortch in games with 65% or more of the routes averages 16.4 PPR points per game. It's like when he's on the field to catch the ball. It's what he does.
Yeah. That makes sense to me, Pat. Any thoughts on these Cardinals wide receivers? Are you ranking Zay Jones now?
He's in the final rounds. I don't know exactly where we have him, but somewhere in the 200s, I think.
I mean, are we sure Marvin Harrison Jr. exists? Are we sure Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to play, dude?
No, but it is fun. I mean,
Zay by Fanatics.
Michael Wilson we have at 188, Zay Jones at 201. So
okay.
They're splitting a role, I think, is the problem. And so neither one I find particularly appealing. And I think Davis is right that I don't know, Dortch, it's tough because my problem with Dortch is that he keeps having people run routes instead of him.
Yeah.
And
Zay Jones now running routes instead of him probably.
Yeah. So I was pretty excited about Dortch because I thought he had a pretty clear path to all the slot snaps and, would be out there in all three wide receiver sets. And now maybe there's more of a rotation. But I don't know. I still think he's somewhat interesting because it should be Harrison and one of Jones or Michael Wilson on the outside with Dortch in the slot, you would think, right?
So that's the thing, that's why it's maybe sneaky bullish for Dortch and very quite not good for Wilson because Zay Jones, Michael Wilson was kind of fun. He had the 2 touchdown game against the 49ers, but you want to talk about a guy who did not he was Quentin Johnston-esque at
He's very Alec Piercy.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Alec Piercy in rookie season for sure.
At earning targets.
Alec Pierce profile. He's like a big outside guy who got there on athleticism. That's what drove the draft capital. The prospect profile was like very much driven by the draft capital. There really wasn't much else.
Ian, our good friend Ian Hurtitz did a Michael Wilson highlights video like 2 weeks before the draft, and I was like, all right, we might have gone too far. We might need the season to get here if we're posting Michael Wilson rookie year Arizona Cardinals highlights, catching touchdowns from fucking Josh Dobbs.
Do you think that because Ian, I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. Ian gets a lot of traction on his Twitter.
Oh my
posts.
God, I wish I was Ian Hartit's Twitter account.
Seriously, do you think that the Cardinals saw that post and that's why they signed Zay Jones?
Maybe it's possible.
It wasn't good enough highlight reel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the takeaway though, is right. Zay is probably going to start the year playing over Michael Wilson.
I would still think Michael Wilson's a slight favorite to start. The fact that the Zay Jones contract details still aren't out make me think he got very little guarantees. I think, it was reported as up to $4.5 million. I'm guessing that's like $1 million or less guaranteed potentially. So we'll see on the details. Yeah. Michael Wilson, I'm not going to pretend he's an awesome player or anything, but I do think like late round Kyler stacks, he makes some sense. He's kind of like Alec Pierce, you could see a world where he gives you some half PPR spike weeks, like gets lucky with a couple touchdowns in a week, catches some deep balls. So I think he did
literally do it. Wilson was a positive advance rate guy because he had a 25-point week, I think, against the 49ers or something as like a 17th round pick. Yeah. So it's worth a lot to get that. Like the whole, which we're going to talk about later, is the whole Puka and Kyren thing. Is it kind of overstates how much you need from a 17th or 18th round pick. Like
by a lot.
Like if we're taking so we're all kind of in this Jalen Tolbert vortex, right?
Yeah.
Like we think Jalen Tolbert stinks, but he's going to play a lot. I mean, if Jalen Tolbert in week 3 catches 2 touchdowns for 83 yards and like in week 15 gets 14 points. You're talking about like one of the picks of the year, probably.
Yeah, dude. For real. I would be so psyched with that outcome.
Yeah, it's how low the bar is.
I mean, that's like a fair amount of teams that get through week 15 that might not have. Like that matters.
Yes, correct.
I was trying to think through when we could talk about Tolbert, and maybe you can put A.T. Perry, Kalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, like these type of wide receivers that are entirely draftable now because of projectable volume. I was trying to think through like how many more of these Zay Jones, what did you call DJ Shark last week? Like the Dementor.
The Dementor.
The Dementor of failed wide receivers. Like I think Michael Thomas is maybe the only one of those guys that's still out there like looking for a job. Like, I don't know. For example, like if Michael Thomas signs with the Cowboys, that's kind of game over for Jalen Tolbert. Maybe,
is it though?
Right?
Because Michael Thomas will be dead in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
so
that's
probably,
true.
It's probably not. Yeah.
I guess that's the point though. That's like these guys are like kind of safe in a weird way now. Like who's left at wide receiver that's taking their job? Obviously they can just faceplant so hard that it doesn't matter, but it's not like there's a ton of these.
Yeah.
So that's what you never account for when we think about these A.T. Perrys and these Jalen Tolberts. You don't account for them playing so poorly that the 6th round rookie that you forgot was on the team is playing over them by week 5. So like, by the way, A.T. Perry, I've been wanting to bring this up because I tweeted the other day, like, I don't want to leave the draft with all this CH and Jalen Tolbert. And a bunch of people were saying A.T. Perry, like they were kind of unearthing this hidden gem or something. A.T. Perry played 53% of the New Orleans Saints snaps last year and generated 18 targets.
Is that true?
Yes, it is true. It's true.
That seems impossible to believe. That's so bad.
Yeah, He ran 208 routes.
The reason why people like him is because he scored 4 touchdowns. 2 of those touchdowns came when who was playing quarterback? Jameis. You basically can't count Jameis stats. Like it's a totally different thing.
You can't count him.
Yeah.
So he was basically the Jimmy Graham of wide receivers last year.
Except
what
he
we're
was
saying?
playing. Except
he was playing a lot.
Playing. He was out there all the time and just never. So A.T. Perry, I will have a cool A.T. Perry on what 70% of teams check established the run draft project percent. I mean, I'll just have a cool 0% of that.
Yeah, I'm not real into the guy who jumps out to me is Kalif Raymond.
Yeah.
Okay. I was hoping you'd be into him, Sam, because he's the kind of like, it's not that exciting, but he's just out there.
He's decent.
He's decent. He finished third in open score last year, which is kind of nuts. Like kind of the thing that makes you question if open scores is a good metric to use. but first was Keenan Allen, second was CeeDee Lamb, fourth was Tyreek Hill, fifth was Garrett Wilson. So like the rest of the guys got open. So I mean, it's a smaller sample for him, and that's probably why he's this high. But he's pretty solid. There's not much target competition outside of, I guess there's some target, there's decent target competition. That's a bad point. Amon-Ra's going to draw targets and Sam Laporte is going to draw targets. But J-Mo's not going to draw a ton of targets consistently, right? Unless he
there's a pretty clear analog for Raymond, which is the 2021 season. That was the first big St. Brown season, 119 targets. St. Brown gets 90, Swift gets 62, 90 receptions, 62 receptions for Swift, 61 for Hawkinson. And Hawkinson got hurt that year or traded that year. I don't remember which one. And Kalif Raymond had 71 targets, 48 receptions, 576 yards and 4 touchdowns. You might be looking at like, what does 500 yards and 4 touchdowns do? But the type of routes he runs, particularly in this offense, he's got a decent chance of having 2 of those touchdowns come together in one game.
Off the top of your head, what do you think Kalif Raymond's yards per route run was last year?
It was I had the spreadsheet up because I was calculating his career yards per route run, so I know the answer.
It was 2.07, and it was 1.91 the year before. This dude's good.
His career is 1.7, which is pretty good over a sample of 1,250 routes. That's like not like a nothing sample. Now the problem is he's, this is his 8th year in the league, so there's obviously no upside here, right? Like
none.
You're not talking yourself into like a breakout season.
No.
You're running back the Josh Reynolds bet from last year, which I think was a very good bet and paid off. Like the Josh Reynolds thing didn't have a sexy season. I would almost guarantee he was a plus advanced rate best ball player. Got plenty of decent like 15-point weeks, and that's sometimes what you're looking for in 18th round pick.
The chat, by the way, they are animated about A.T. Perry. Some of the A.T. Perry people that follow me on Twitter are in the chat, and they're like, "Come on, bro, it's 18 targets on 353 snaps." I
get the downside. I'm a little bit more okay with clicking Perry. He's definitely not a guy I'll have a ton of, but if I already have some Saints, the thing is literally like, look at the depth chart, and this is how you really get into trouble. You're
literally doing the exercise we just talked about, getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah, but they did with Perry. Second year players, I think, are more risky. This is why Tolbert's making really uneasy. Actually, is that second year players?
Tolbert is a third year.
Oh God, yeah. Well, okay, that's even worse. Second and third year players, the team is not like seeing what they have. Like they know what they have. Jalen Tolbert's been around for 2 years. Like they know exactly what they have. Like if he's not good, he's going away at the end of the season, right? Like they're going to see what they have in whatever random 6th round guy. And they have one, by the way. I forget. Beinfort mentioned
Ryan Flournoy.
Ryan Flournoy.
Yeah. So Flournoy is going to be who they're curious about.
Have you looked into this Flournoy guy, by the way, Kyren?
He's like 24 years old.
He's so old. I don't know what the deal is.
Is he older than Tolbert?
He might. I think he is. Yeah.
No, I haven't really looked into him.
Yeah, he's not someone that is very fun to look into.
He played college football. He played college football for the Central Missouri Mules, the Iowa Western Rivers, and Southeast Missouri State Redhawks. He's 24 years old. So I think probably we can stay safe. I think Turpin probably is more of a threat. Or you want to talk about, we'll actually do this. We'll do real sleepers here on ADP chasing. People forget Luke Schoonmaker was a second-round pick last year for the Cowboys, then got hurt in minicamp, like pretty severely, and was not even able to practice in training camp, really. This could be a pretty heavy 12 personnel team, and that could explain why they didn't invest anything in wide receiver this offseason.
This season is just setting up to be like, how does CeeDee Lamb just not end up as the wide receiver one this season?
How does he not catch 200 passes?
It's just like setting up to be the most insane target hog season of all time. Like, this competition somehow got worse from last year, I think, with Gallup leaving and Cooks.
They let Gallup go. Insane.
Yeah. It's just like such a bad skill core. And also Pollard didn't have a great year, but I think we can all say he's a better pass catching weapon than, Zeke and Rico Dowdle. It's just like,
I'm not going to give. I think Rico Dowdle's probably better than Pollard.
He was pretty bad last year. Obviously I agree CD's a smash, but Jake Ferguson, right? I mean,
yeah.
Who's got a bigger target share? This is not like, I'm serious. Who's got a bigger target share this year? Jake Ferguson or Sam Laporta?
Laporta's because their offense is not egalitarian. The stuff the Cowboys were doing last year with Schottenheimer was much more egalitarian, where it's like you don't even have to be good.
Yeah,
Jake,
right. It is, the answer is Laporta, but you had to think. And there's a big gap.
I thought you were going to say Kincaid, and I was ready to say everything that people have been saying about Kincaid applies to Ferguson too, where it's like,
yeah, it literally does.
There's just very little else for there to go to. With obviously the upside being Jake Ferguson has scored touchdowns ever in his career at any level.
Dude, he scores touchdowns, and he's like, I was looking at the play action participation rate from last year. I wrote an article about this last year of like this being an important thing to look at for tight ends, is partly why Kyle Pitts has been a disappointment, because he's not out there around the goal line on play action because he doesn't block at all, and he's terrible at it. Ferguson, that was like what he did before he had a role. He would come in for 12 stuff and get used around the goal line. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense why he got so many red zone targets.
He led tight ends and end zone targets, if not in the end, for a large part of the season last year. Yeah. I guess I haven't looked this offseason.
That stuff, very variant, but he's a part of their plan at the goal line.
Yeah, he is.
The other thing, Brandon Cooks, while we're just talking about all the Cowboys, he's a guy that, like, I think I've had a leak. It's been a leak in my game.
Such a Lord Reeves play.
I completely just ignore him. Like, I'd completely ignore him.
I don't think that's a leak, Sam. I think you're drafting well.
I guess maybe it is, but what I was talking myself into is, like, sometimes these older veterans, I think, have this underpriced downside risk of, like, oh, he's just going to get benched. Like, but who is Brandon Cooks going to get benched for on this Cowboys team?
There is zero benching risk.
That's the thing.
That's not what I'm worried about. I'm just doing other stuff. I'm taking Marshawn Lloyd or Tyson.
I honestly don't even know where he's going in drafts, because I've completely.
He's wide receiver 60. The issue is I have Wicks ranked ahead of him, so I take Wicks straight up over him. And if I have a Falcon or I have a Commander, I'm taking Dotson, which I know obviously Dotson is terrible, but you want, like, I want to have a Commanders player with Daniels.
It's mostly the running backs. Like I'm taking Zeke, I'm taking Dowdle, I'm taking Charbonnet, I'm taking Blake Corum, I'm taking Marshawn Lloyd, Jerome Ford. Actually, I'd probably take more Ford, but that's like where you get. Yeah,
that's true.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Let's get to, I think, the heart of today's discussion. The rest of these risers and fallers, it's kind of pointless to talk through. So I think a big thing in best ball, and we've talked about this in the show before, is obviously identifying who the running back twos are on different teams. So I went through this exercise pretty quickly. It's definitely not perfect. We can debate it here, but I went through all the teams in the NFL and categorized their backfields into 4 different categories. So we have clear RB1, RB2 teams. That's teams like the Cardinals with Connor and Benson, Falcons with Bijan and Algier, etc., where we just clearly know who the running back 1 and running back 2 are, and it's just like kind of no contest. Then there's a handful of teams, I think, where the market has some certainty about who the RB2 is, but I think it's at least debatable. That's teams like the Bills, the Bucks, the Giants, the Broncos, and more. And then there's teams where we just absolutely have no idea who the RB2 is, or it's like almost a complete toss up. That would be, for example, that would be the Jets. Is it Abanikanda, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis? The Eagles, is it Kenny Gainwell? Is it Will Shipley, etc.? And we can debate all these, but I wanted to go through this exercise just to start thinking through who are the guys, the backup running backs that we are confident drafting today versus guys that we should be monitoring training camp news, preseason news, etc. before we start to pounce. And I guess just a little bit more context on like why I think this is important. I wanted to go through last year. These are some examples of running backs who are being drafted as the RB2 on their teams this time last year. We had Rashad Penny on the Eagles, complete zero. He was not the RB2. Dameon Harris on the Bills, complete zero. He was not the RB2.
Well, no, he was going to be, but he just played so bad and then got hurt.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough, but okay. I don't know about that one.
No,
I think
don't give me a derogatory.
That was a derogatory. Fair enough. Yeah,
I think he just got straight up beat out by Latavius Murray, but whatever. Doesn't matter.
Little bit A, a little bit of B. I think.
Okay, then Tank Bigsby. He was given a chance at the RB2. He was just
he
bad,
was the RB. He was the information was correct there. He just sucked.
Yeah. Zach Evans, that was bad. Deuce Vaughn. Not the RB2. Dwayne McBride in Minnesota over Ty Chandler, wrong. So
these are need to be clear. I don't know about you guys, but I took zero McBride and was a Ty Chandler boy the whole way. These are just purely how the ADP had them ranked at this time last year. Not saying that was like a consensus opinion. Was bifurcated doesn't mean that people didn't have the answer though. That's important to
yeah, that's true. Ty Chandler was pretty clearly the answer, I think. But I was actually not that in on Chandler, because I didn't think he was that clear, but not because I was in on McBride. McBride was untouchable after the draft.
Yeah. So I think this list we don't need to spend any time on. That's not the point of today's discussion, but just so people watching along, these are the examples of the teams where the depth chart is just very clear cut. I guess like a team like Miami, I'll listen to you if you want to make an argument that somehow Jalen Wright ends up as the RB2 over Mostert. I guess I'll listen to you if you want to say AJ Dillon, just because the team's so familiar with him, has a chance. But I really think those are very small, unlikely outcomes. These teams are pretty much just locked in RB1, RB2.
Yeah. I would say there's sort of a third category here. It might be like worth considering where there are backfields, and I would categorize the Dolphins and the Bears like this last year, where you have like just pure uncertainty. And so you're kind of taking stabs, and the Dolphins are still kind of like that because we know Achane is really good, but he's not going to be like a workhorse. Mostert's really old. So you're kind of like, I don't know, this guy might have something, and it's a backfield where I want that. And then the Packers are probably kind of like that to an extent as far as the RB2 goes, because like maybe both have some kind of role, but obviously with behind Jacobs, that's not really one of those situations. But there's I
hear you.
Yeah. There's kind of there's like an uncertain. What I'm trying to say is like the Chiefs last year, right? Like the Chiefs, where you have like a McKinnon and a CEH, and probably like both end up being draftable, is what I'm trying to get to.
I tried to categorize that in this far right corner here, Crane. I didn't want to spend too much time on today's show talking about it because I think it's a separate debate entirely. But I think this year the teams that maybe fit that bill are like the Chargers most clearly, the Browns a little bit because of the Nick Chubb injury. Like, could he miss the whole season? And both Donta Foreman and Ford are playing. So if you wanted to talk me into putting Miami into that far right category, I understand where you're coming from. It's like a little mix of both, I would say, probably. But yeah, these aren't perfect categories.
I would be tilted if you put them there because I love Achane, but like also they're sort of like not in the they're kind of a special case in a sense.
They're a special case. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who's the starter isn't the perfect definition for that category. It's just kind of like the Chargers, for instance, and we can hit on this a little bit. I think it's okay to take the risk of a dead roster spot on the Chargers with Kamani Vidal because the upside is so huge. Like Kamani Vidal could be a complete zero, but I'm okay drafting him. Whereas like I'll give an example. I don't know, like the Colts. I don't really want to take a complete zero with Evan Hull right now. Maybe that's a bad example. There's some upside in the Colts. I don't know. The Raiders is a better example.
I think that's fair. Like he might be behind Trey Sermon. It's possible. It's kind of crazy. I hope not, but you could be definitely taking a zero with Evan Hull.
And the upside of what you get there is just so much less than what you get in the Chargers. So anyways, let's go through these.
Not if Jonathan Taylor twists his knee. Then Zach Moss was like a league winner last year, like 3.2 yards per carrying his way down the field.
That's true. I'm not saying there's no upside there. I'm just saying without injuries, your best case scenario is getting the RB2 on the Colts, whereas on the Chargers, you can literally bank the starting running back. Let's start here with Buffalo. So Ray Davis is now being drafted pretty aggressively. What do you guys think, starting with you, Kyren? Do you think that there's decent odds, like high enough odds he's going to win this role that you feel comfortable taking him at 157?
He's not like a priority for me, but I think he's gonna be the RB2. Ray Davis, the appeal of Ray Davis, I think in fantasy and real life, is that he's like ready to go. He's a really old guy. He's versatile. He doesn't add like a ton of explosiveness, but he's sort of, Devin Singletary-esque. You put him out there, you kind of let him do his thing. I think that's like if you're drafting like Ray Davis to develop him for a year, like what are you doing? Just get him out there if you're going to draft him. So I would be a little bit surprised if he's not the RB2. And then I do think with the rookies who have like some draft capital behind them, they don't have to be the clear RB2 to ultimately provide some value this season. I think the rookies give us a little bit more. They give us another out of them earning a role as the season progresses. James Cook, I like a lot, but he's not going to be like, an 80-90% snap share guy. So there should be someone rotating in. Maybe that person changes down the stretch and it's Ray Davis, even if it's in a bad outcome for him.
That makes sense. Davis, what are your thoughts?
Ray Davis is going to score 11 touchdowns this year, and there's just not really much that anyone can do about it. Is sort of my thought. I just like what would have to go through your mind as a GM to draft a running back who's older than your starter. Did we do the math? It's like he's like 3 months younger than James Cook, I think, but they're the same age. You draft this guy, and your thought process is, nah, we'll just let him hang out on the bench or whatever. What they did was they said what Latavius Murray brought, we liked that, but we wanted in a slightly younger package, not too much younger, but just slightly younger. And that is Ray Davis. Ray Davis caught passes at Kentucky. He's a fine pass blocker. He's big. He's strong. I think he had about 900 touches his final season at Kentucky. I believe he got 30 touches against Georgia. It's just very clear what he brings. He's better than Dameon Harris, right? They signed Dameon Harris. It doesn't work out. They turn it over to Latavius Murray. They're freaking giving Ty Johnson goal line touches because they don't trust James Cook down there. Like Ray Davis is scoring touchdowns. I don't know if passes he'll catch, but he's scoring touchdowns.
My slight pushback on Davis is it's not actually. I think he's going to win this RB2 job, especially as you said, Kyren, down the stretch. And I also think that the role has a decent chance of being good. It's just that for me, where he's priced now, like Tyler Algier goes 6 picks later. I kind of feel like like a ceiling comp for Ray Davis might be like Tyler Algier. So it's a little bit of the Family Guy, like boat meme. I feel like I can just get a locked in running back too on a good team, on a team that doesn't have Josh Allen stealing goal line work. So that's it for me. Like, and also Antonio Gibson, a little bit of a different story there, but I just feel like there's these really locked in RB2s, if that makes sense, that go after Davis. So it feels
Antonio
just
Gibson
like
is a great pick.
Algier's one of the best picks on the board.
Algier's a good pick too.
He's locked in. I mean, this dude is absolutely locked in. I don't understand. He should be in the 140s. He's 20 picks underpriced. I don't get it. But yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like
to me, that's more about Algier than Davis.
Exactly. Like I don't think Davis is a bad pick, but for me, like I just probably it's going to be really hard for me to click Ray Davis over Algier. So that's my one hang up there. I also did want to look at, so I looked at, I think a lot of these guys, the discussion comes down to like how a lot of these guys are rookies, like 4th round, 5th round picks. So I think a lot of the discussion comes down to like how likely is it that a day 3 running back makes an impact as a rookie. So I looked at this historically quickly, and I just looked at running backs since 2017 in the 3rd round, 4th round, and 5th round. This first slide here is the 3rd round. And I just counted how many of them historically were just absolute zeros as rookies. And so for 3rd round running backs since 2017, about 40% of them were zeros as rookies. That was last year, guys like Kendre and Tank, the 49ers, TDP, Trey Sermon combo. Dameon Harris was kind of redshirted as a rookie. So guys like that just didn't make an impact. Once you go to 4th round, things get slightly worse. About 50% of them were zeros as rookies. And then once you go to 5th round, it gets even uglier. Like 70% of them were zeros as rookies. And I define zeros like a little bit based on feel, but it was guys that, had less than 30 carries as rookies. Like I defined non-zeros pretty generously. Like for instance,
I think so, because Aaron Jones didn't really do much as a rookie. Like he
exactly
was in
like
the mix, but
like the guys who are highlighted as non-zeros are not necessarily hits. They just got like some playing time as rookies.
Yeah.
The guys highlighted in red are like stone, like absolute zeros. Like this analysis counted like Josh Kelly's rookie season as a hit. So it's a pretty like generous analysis just because he was the backup, got a handful of carries. Like he was,
you
in the
counted
mix,
Benny
right?
Snell's a hit. I think you're being generous.
Yeah.
Very, very. Bryce Love. Remember Bryce Love? God, do I
Yes, I
remember?
do,
Sean
man.
Sean Siegel loved Bryce Love, and that
He did.
was
He loved Benny
that
Snell
was-
too.
He loved Benny
Snell as
Snell.
well.
Yeah. So zooming back out, my point is just that these guys, I think we're in peak rookie hype season. It's important to remember like the base rate expectations for like a random draw 4th round rookie. Like they're pretty fucking terrible. Now, if a round 4 rookie gets
hang on. But when they hit, look at some of the hits on there. Some of the hits are massive.
Yeah.
Like Benny Snell and Perine.
No, Perine
really...
was unironically a hit. He was good as a rookie.
Yeah.
So
you're getting
Yeah, go ahead, Kyren.
No, I mean obviously Michael Carter was he was drafted, it was priced in. Dameon Pierce by the very end it was priced in, but early on it was not. Ramondre though, I mean that was a very well priced big hit. Tariq Cohen was kind of a pure pass catching PPR guy, but that was a pretty big hit his rookie season. I can't remember when Chase Edmonds came on, but like some of these dudes, like Marlon Mack, I think was a pretty damn big hit when in his rookie season. So you are getting, I think, you're swinging for the fences a little bit. And so maybe the point would be like, are you swinging for the fences with Ray Davis? Is he really, but to Davis' point, he scored a bunch of touchdowns. So maybe he is a swing for the fences, but yeah, I mean, that's what you're doing. You're swinging for the fences. You're much more likely to take a zero with some of these dudes because they might suck, but they might be really good too. That's the appeal. We don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, we just don't
know.
And a lot of, and Gretchen's made this point too. A lot of these running backs got uniquely good landing spots. So I'm not saying like the base rate expectations. That's just like general grounding for this conversation. I'm not saying Ray Davis has like a 70% chance of being a bust just because of where he was drafted. I just think it's important to remember when we get overconfident and back to the Tyler Algier, Antonio Gibson thing. Like once these day 3 rookies like are priced above those guys, I'm just gonna probably say, hey guys, I think I'm just out. I'm just gonna take the guys that I know have the role. So, but yeah, let's move on to talking about Bucky Irving. I think this one is interesting because I think you can make the case that he could even get a bigger like starting role potentially by the end of the season. How much should we believe that case of Bucky Irving like completely overtaking Rachaad White?
Well, I mean, do you want to dust off the Rachaad White takes from last year?
Yeah, it's just the issue is Rachaad White is so replacement level that like they tried everything to try and get him off the field and none of it worked. And there's also like how much of wanting the same running back on the field all the time was Canales. Canales being like, yeah, I just want this dude out there 85% of the time or whatever. It's like that's probably unknowable right now. No, I don't know if that means Sean Tucker is a draftable. I don't know if that means Bucky Irving is draftable. I don't know if that means Edmonds is going to play this year. I mean, probably not. But I probably means Irving is draftable, really.
I think Irving's draftable.
I think he's very draftable. I think he's very draftable. Like, the thing with Irving is that he bombed the athleticism stuff, but he was a good running back.
He's very good.
Like a college player, he was very good. And then he gets some draft capital and he lands in a pristine spot for just kind of doing your job as a rusher, shining through. Like, oh my God, this guy's hitting the right holes. Every play we called, like, he does it exactly like we say. Where like Rachaad White, you cannot rely on this guy on the ground. He had a minus 110 rush yards over expected, lowest in the entire NFL, worse than Jamaal Williams, worse than the Kareem Hunt last year, worse than Alvin Kamara. It was bad. He had a 37% success rate. That's also bad. He hasn't been good as a runner. He's a pretty solid receiver, but I mean, there's like a real path to Bucky Irving just being like the lead. Like, I know it's not a perfect example, but like, he could be the Brian Robinson to Rachaad White's Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, it's not a one-to-one. It's not a one-to-one, but yes. Yeah, it is very like that.
They're different types of players. Like, Robinson's more like a true kind of early down guy, but I think even more than Gibson, White is just like the door. Like, he has left the door wide open for someone to come in and take this early down role.
Yeah, and I made this point a couple weeks ago, but again, the Rachaad White thing, it worked out last year, but I honestly do think the Bucs were actively trying to find a better running back on their roster to take some of White's work away, and they just couldn't do it because Chase Edmonds, Sean Tucker, these guys were so bad. So I think they're going into the season thinking we need someone to take some of the work off Rachaad White's plate. Maybe Bucky Irving sucks so much that he can't, but I would bet on him carving out some kind of role in this backfield in most scenarios.
Rachaad White as a rookie had a 34% success rate, minus 30 rush yards over expected. That was just above A.J. Dillon, actually slightly worse than Antonio Gibson, speaking of him. Worse than Dalvin Cook in kind of his final season of relevance. He's yet to show anything as a runner. This would also be kind of like on track for them to be like, all right, let's try something else out.
Yeah, fading Rachaad White 2 years in a row. What can go wrong? Let's talk here about Denver. Javonte Williams here's the starter. Running back 2. It's kind of a mess here in Denver. There's a bunch of guys. Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine, Audric Estime. I'm taking Jaleel McLaughlin. It's just kind of a weird scenario. I don't entirely know how to parse it. Yeah,
I'm windmilling Jaleel at this price because it's going to be August 12th, and Jaleel McLaughlin's going to be going off the board as running back 39 in the 11th round. It's going to be a total shark jump situation.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I was taking a lot of him, like 20 picks higher than this in the big board. But they haven't cut Perine. I guess they still probably will, but I would really like them to. If I'm drafting Jaleel McLaughlin.
Well, what's going to happen is max 1 of Estime or Perine makes the roster, and they're just going to see if Estime is any good.
Yeah, but if I'm drafting McLaughlin, I really want it to be Estime who makes it, because Estime is kind of more like the Javonte dude. Like he's an early down grinder. Like even if he's really good, he's just like a 2-down pounder type.
I think it would just be helpful to think of Jaleel as Pierre Thomas, where he can't be replaced regardless of who the other running backs on go through and look at the other running backs that Pierre Thomas had good fantasy seasons with. It's like every shape and size, Mark Ingram, Darren Sproles, like it just did not matter who was in a backfield with Pierre Thomas. He would always get his numbers.
I could definitely see that, but he's not as established, and they also drafted this or they signed this Blake Watson UDFA. And they're talking about him in a similar role to Jaleel. I think they would be like directly competing. And then Perine, was running back 4 in receiver rating last year, and I believe he led all running backs in yards per route run. So that's like
we know exactly who Perine is.
I know, but like I don't want him involved. Like Jaleel's path to like really winning me weeks is as a receiver. Like give me Estime and not Perine. I think that just makes him so much more appealing. If it's a 3-man committee of Williams, Perine, and McLaughlin, I mean Perine is big enough to get goal line work, and I mean he's actually like really big, and he's a good receiver. So that's where I mean honestly, if Perine doesn't get cut, I'm kind of into Perine. He gives you the high value touches.
Denver just needs to get on the phone with Jerry Jones and say, hey, Jerry, we'll give you Samaje Perine for a future second-round pick. How does that sound, buddy? And that solves all of our problems.
Not my Rico Dowdle problems. That would give me a whole bunch to do. I got a bag of Dowdle, man.
I mean, I think Perine gets cut pretty
I think he gets cut. It's just it would be so weird to draft Estime and then Perine. He's such a big
5th round.
Yeah, they didn't have that many.
It's not that weird to take a 5th round.
Yeah, Sam, you just showed that chart. Like, couldn't you practice squad Estime, practice squad? I mean, Blake Watson, you tell, see you next year, most likely.
Yeah.
And then Estime's on the practice squad, and you roll out with the same 3 you had last year. That seems. Is that not the most likely scenario?
Yeah, I just think like Samaje Perine's cap number this year is $5 million. Like that just seems insane to me that they're willing to pay that.
That is insane.
When they have all this depth.
How is that the case?
Yeah, I'm lying a little bit. It's $4.5 million, but still, that's
you round it up. We'll accept rounding.
I round it up, but like that's so much to pay a running back these days. I just don't like you're paying him that much to be like a rotational like 20% snap
player.
They
can save $3 million by cutting him. It looks like.
That's a kind of a lot of money for a running back. So I don't know. It's definitely I agree with you, Crane. Though it's definitely a lot more fun to pick Jaleel because if Perine's out of there, then you can see a path to just like a 2-back backfield. I think if Perine's still on the team, he's going to rotate in. It's just going to be annoying.
Yeah. I'm still taking Jaleel. Like I have him ranked like exactly with ADP. I do take him sometimes, but it's just like he was a guy I was excited about him. I was excited to be excited about Jaleel McLaughlin, and it's just like I want to see the clear runway. Clear the fucking runway, and I'll get excited.
Think about the game we're playing. Okay, you got to think about it more like in a game theory sense of like what are the odds that Perine is on the Broncos roster in week 1? Definitely, I think lower than what. See, I don't think it is. I
put it at like 30%. I put it like 30%.
Right. Well,
so give it 30%. Then give it what are the odds that he stays healthy for 17 games? Then give it the odds that Javonte Williams stays healthy for 17 games. Then give it the odds that Sean Payton, just for whatever reason, loves this Jaleel McLaughlin kid, which he pretty clearly does because he was playing him over Javonte like early on when no one even knew who he was. Remember, week 1 or week 2, he scored the goal.
I had to learn what his name was week 1. I had no idea who he was.
So I think you do all of that math and you're like, well, we know that Bo Nix is going to throw like 210 targets to the running backs this upcoming season. And you can get this guy after like special teams wide receivers, like he's going after Rashad Bateman. Like, I just think, I mean, we say this all the time on this show. We say we always think the market is going to count something and then the thing actually happens. And then they're so surprised. They freak out. They're like, what do you mean Kirk Cousins is a Falcon? Impossible. What do you mean Justin
Fields? He was a Viking before.
Justin Fields is the quarterback 28 now. He got traded. I think Jaleel, I mean, I'll tell you this. If we get off this show, Perine gets cut, we do this show next week, Jaleel is the number 1 riser.
You're 100%
he's up
right.
like 30 spots.
Yeah.
So it's a funny thing, like, especially doing rankings and everything. Like, I've been in on Jaleel all off season, but I just like when you're just like clicking this dude a lot, you're kind of like, can this get a little clearer? Can this be a little clearer? But you're right. I think that I don't want to lose my nerve here on Jaleel. He's a good pick.
Well, the important point is that I don't think there's any scenario where you're taking a 0, where there are some guys you're taking around him who are definite 0 possibilities. So I think that helps. That I think that makes me feel more comfortable. Like you might be taking Keaton Mitchell, and he might just be a 0. I mean, he just might not play, right? He could get beat out by Rasheen Ali. The knee could be worse than we think. Bucky Irving could get beat out by Sean Tuck. Like whatever. But there's really no non-injury scenario, I think, where Jaleel is a 0.
Yeah, he had a role last year. He was good at it. It would be weird if he didn't at least retain the role he had last year.
It would be very weird.
I mean, it would be weird, but at the same time, he's a UDFA, and then they just took another UDFA, and they're like, this guy does the exact same thing as this other guy.
You're really hoisting me with my own petard, which is always with these running backs to be like, the team doesn't give a shit about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to apply logic to what's going through Sean Payton's head, which is just a recipe for disaster.
But it is, I mean, UDFA, like we see this all the time. Like Philip Lindsay was awesome, and then they were like, hey, Philip.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't care. Go away.
There was a regime change. There was a regime change. So that's the thing you got to be careful of with the third round, or with like the Dameon Pierces. You got to be really careful when it's a regime change, because that's when it's most likely to be them being like, I don't give a shit about you when it's a new coach.
Yeah, James Robinson. Was that a regime change?
James Robinson was a regime change. And they even started him. So the regime changed and they even started him, and then he got hurt. But James Robinson almost survived.
Urban Meyer, that was to Urban Meyer, right? He was the new guy who
Correct.
Yeah. Someone in the chat asked a while ago, what's this odds of being RB2 column? I just made it up, but
there's no. Sam, what are the inputs to this model, please?
It's just one of these. And
then that finger types the numbers in.
Yeah. But I don't know if you guys, I would actually be like, as we go through these, if you think these are like wildly off, Davis, Pat, please chime in. But these guys are roughly like, I have these teams ordered like roughly.
I think you have the Ravens one wrong. I'm pretty sure the Ravens one is wrong. Justice Hill has been the running back 2 there for like the last decade, and probably will be the running back 2.
Yeah, Justice Hill's the RB2.
Let's jump to the Ravens while we're on that. Because this one was weird because I don't know. I guess let's think. Imagine it's week 15. So Keaton Mitchell's had plenty of time to come back from injury. Theoretically, at that point, you still think Justice Hill is RB2, or are you just factoring in injury?
No. I think Keaton Mitchell is the odds-on favorite to be the running back 2 that matters. But Justice Hill, well, even if Keaton is ready to start the year, Justice will be the second running back to get a snap for the Ravens.
Got it. Yeah, that's crazy that like Justice Hill's career is like a pretty good outcome for his draft capital.
People,
Sam's charts earlier, like this
people
is like
remember
one of the good ones.
People may remember Justice Hill from famously being the guy you needed to win your league in 2018.
Darwin Thompson, right?
It was my most
Darwin Thompson
football article of all time. It like got viral on Google News somehow. It was like getting like millions.
Yeah, it was me and
Pete
reading it in preparation for FFPC drafts.
Yeah.
Not ideal. Not ideal.
It's so funny with like these guys like Hill and Deneric Prince is maybe another example. Like these guys that go from like these sexy, hyped rookies, like next league winner, and then 2 years later we're like, that guy sucks. Like, who cares about that guy?
We're doing it this year with Theo Johnson, who has like the exact same RAS as Daniel Bellinger, and we're like, Daniel Bellinger, that bum, get him out of here. Like, this guy's like literally like drill for drill the same.
I mean, how about literal, like the one that's been most startling to me is Odell Beckham, because I like was doing fantasy analysis when he was a rookie. And it's like now Odell is just an old bum.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
He's like the old guy.
That makes
David Johnson retiring. I mean, David Johnson's whole career came and went in my lifetime of doing this.
It's so crazy. That class has had so many guys that have all become that guy. Like Sammy Watkins was the first guy who kind of became the old guy.
Sammy Watkins was that guy like 4 years into his career.
Yeah, no, it's like 4 years off his rookie contract. He's like bouncing around the league. You had Allen Robinson have that whole stretch of being that guy.
Oh my God, Allen Robinson.
Yeah. I mean, eventually we still have Mike Evans, Devontae Adams to go. Like we have a couple more presumably, if that's how they end their career.
I feel good about Mike Evans not ever becoming that guy. I think he'll probably just ride out into the sunset.
I hope so, man.
Devontae Adams is going to be 37 years old as a Jet.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Bringing it back to back to the Ravens here.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so just so people have the timeline for Keaton Mitchell, he had surgery on December 28th. If you give him like a 9-month timeline, that would put him back sometime around week 4 or 5. Now, his injury was weird. This is getting into the weeds. It was reported as a clean ACL. When you watch the injury, it did look like one of those that was like a particularly bad injury, but obviously that's, not something we should put a lot of stock into, but it has been reported as a clean ACL tear. So I'm going with that assessment, I guess. So if he's back in that week 4 or 5 time span, I actually think he's a pretty good pick here, but definitely someone you should be monitoring the news on his recovery to see if he's actually.
I want to do. Can I do a quick bit here on Rasheen Ali? Because I bet this is a guy who's not really been talked about on any fantasy thing. I think more of a decent chance than the market is indicating that he beats out both a gimpy Keaton Mitchell and an aging Justice Hill behind a 30-year-old running back. His final season at Marshall, 5.4 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns with 15 receptions. He probably would have declared after his junior season because he was actually better as a sophomore. And Marshall, 24 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry, 1,800 scrimmage yards, but he got injured as a junior. And then actually to stay in shape, he ran track in between his junior and senior year. And you'd think a guy of this profile, like an older guy, like, oh, he must have been a UDFA. No, he was a 5th round pick, 165th pick overall for a team that we think of as being pretty smart with their picks. Like, oh, the Ravens, they're all, they're so intelligent. Like they would never waste a pick on a running back, yada, yada, so on and so forth. My spidey senses are tingling for sure on Rasheen Ali.
He's definitely a fun guy that I want to keep my eye on and see what the reports are on him. I think that's a good
it's a good shout out because he's got some elements to his profile that, he was a good breakaway runner. He handled a lot of carries. He ran a lot of routes. He was like a backfield dominator rating star, which is, Blair Andrews has highlighted this for years and this is how we found Philip Lindsay and actually Devon Achane was a backfield dominator. When you get lower into the draft, that ability to just handle an entire backfield is like, I think it's kind of trust, right? It's like this dude was like, they just threw him out there and let him do his thing. Your boy Dylan Laube, a backfield dominator as well. But yeah, 85% of the backfield in his final season at Marshall. And he added breakaway yards as well. So he could be kind of interesting. To me, it's a reason to shy away from Keaton Mitchell right now. We just talked about how the market doesn't price stuff in. They're not pricing in Keaton Mitchell starting the training camp on PUP. Like, he's gonna fall. So, and like if you're taking Jonathan Brooks right now, he's probably gonna fall for the same reason. But like Brooks is a potential league-winning pick. Mitchell's kind of like an intriguing dart throw. I probably want to wait on good news and take him in more towards the end of the summer.
Let's move here to the Saints. I think this has kind of been an under-discussed one in terms of second-year running backs. Kendre Miller, he's at 151 ADP. I have him here as a 60% odds of beating out Jamaal Williams.
Shouldn't it be 100%?
Yeah, I think it should be higher.
I think it's
starting to come around.
100%.
Yeah, I think it should be higher. The only thing is like he didn't. That's what I'm just saying is like he didn't do it last year. Like
he got hurt. When a rookie gets hurt in camp, like all bets are off. I think that's one thing I've really learned as trying to mature as a fantasy football player is if a rookie player gets injured in camp, like maybe if the coaching staff loves them, it can be all right. But if the coaching staff is just like whatever, he's just he's just here. It's a very hard deficit to make up.
Yeah, my buddy pointed out that the scheme change with Kendre Miller could be pretty bullish as well. Going to the the Kubiak style offense here.
It's just kind of bullish for any running back, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's bullish
Kubiak
for any
stuff.
running back, but I mean, I think Miller's kind of like, we're betting on like explosiveness. He's a sort of a weird prospect where like when you watch him, you're like, oh, he looks almost like Kamara-esque. Like you expect that he's going to be this like versatile receiving guy, but he's more of a kind of explosive runner than, receiver. So that would, I mean, it can't hurt because it wasn't. It
can't be worse than
year.
whoever they had last year. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I was looking back at his prospect profile, and it was it was pretty good. Like he's a better prospect than a lot of the running backs in this class. So kind of
how would he compare to you? Like let's say like Marshawn Lloyd. How would he compare to that in terms of prospect profile?
So I have Kendre Miller.
It has to be way better. Lloyd was a part-time back.
Yeah, I have Kendre Miller just tiered as a second round dynasty pick, and Lloyd is a third. And the only other second rounds, just like straight, because I have a few early second rounders. I'll just say from last year. I'll just go through the entire classes. Bijan Robinson I have is being worth the Superflex 101. Jameer Gibbs is an early first. Jonathan Brooks is a late first. Trey Benson, Tajay Spears, Zach Charbonnet as early second. Devon Achane and Kendre Miller as second. Everyone else a third or later.
Got it. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think I should have bumped this up to like 80-85% or something. And I think the other thing that's exciting about this one is, man, Alvin Kamara, he might be done pretty soon. And it wouldn't be like compared to other guys in this list, like Elijah Mitchell, obviously not going to overtake CMC, like CEH not going to overtake Pacheco. I could see Kendre Miller just being a better fit for this new Shanahan-esque scheme than Alvin Kamara is at this stage of his career. That wouldn't entirely shock me if that happened.
I mean, I
wouldn't be surprised at all.
Kamara is washed. Like as a runner,
yeah,
I mean,
he's been bad, man.
He's been so bad. Like
Kamara had multiple games, not only of sub 3 yards per carry last season, but he also had 2 games with negative yards receiving, which is
so
sort of interesting.
That's hard to do.
That is hard to do. Ezekiel Elliott, we all know how washed Zeke is. 42% success rate last year is pretty good. So he's like still doing a thing that's useful. That's like higher than Joe Mixon, higher than Brian Robinson, higher than Derrick Henry. He's still like out there doing a thing that like a team can count on. Kamara's success rate was horrendous, and he had 99 yards under expected. So you're getting kind of the worst of both. It's like, Dameon Pierce, a 33% success rate, minus 83. It's like that kind of vibes. Joshua Kelly's down here. Jamaal Williams, Miles Sanders, like just it's up to Kendre. You know what I mean? Like if Kendre has something, he should be able to force his way on the field. Because the other one, I mean, Jamaal Williams is one of the other guys down here. Minus 102 rush yards over expected in 2023 with a 29% success rate. He was horrendous.
The
Jamaal Williams contract last offseason is one of the worst.
I mean, the Saints are so bad at this. The Saints are like the worst contract team. But go look, if you just want to have a good laugh, go look at what they made them pay Taysom Hill. Like they can't even cut Taysom Hill because Sean Payton was like,
it was like 3 years ago.
They still can't cut him. Because it's like Taysom is good enough to be on the field to just like be a football player, so they can't cut him. But it's just like it's just so bad. What they should do, honestly, is they should just cut all the bad contracts in one off season and just eat it. Just be like, you know what? We're just gonna be the worst team in football for the next year and a half, and just be like, it is what it is.
I mean, they're gonna be the worst team in football here pretty soon, either way.
But they keep trying they keep trying to paper over it, and I think they just need to be like, we are an XFL franchise for the next season.
They gotta stop. Yeah, they gotta stop kicking the can down the road. Like the
Derek Carr contract extension. It's like that just was so misguided. It was so bad.
But is it misguided from a perspective of like, how are these particular set of individuals going to be employed by an NFL franchise if not the Saints? Like I would extend the hell out of Derek Carr.
Taysom.
I feel like this is it. We made our bed.
here's the thing. Peyton fucked himself because if Taysom made less money, he could have just traded for him and he would have gotten his quarterback and wouldn't have had to do Bo Nix.
I'm surprised that the Broncos haven't figured out a way to trade for Taysom yet. That's coming next year.
What do you,
right?
okay.
It's coming next year.
Everyone in the chat, guess what they think Taysom Hill's contract is right now? Just everyone in the chat, in your head, do a little mental calculus. What do you think Taysom Hill gets paid? I know the answer. Sam, what do you think Taysom Hill gets paid?
Are you saying his like cap hit this year?
I'm saying, let's see, what's the funnier number? His funnier. What do you think his dead cap number is? His dead cap number is the funniest number.
Like 25 million.
24 million. 24
Well done, Sam.
I knew it was absurd. I've been on that over the cap page before.
His cumulative
Sam knows Kalif Raymond's yards per route run and Taysom Hill's dead cap up.
His cumulative cash number is 32 million. His actual cap hit obviously is not that bad because this is the way the Saints do things. Is the actual cap hit ends up being okay because it's all kicks down the road.
Because it's not for 3 more years.
Now if Taysom is a Saint next year, $15 million for 34-year-old Taysom Hill. He's still on the team next year.
Tony Gonzalez retired at 34, didn't he? It's unbelievable.
Oh, and it's just
Holy
like,
shit.
and I can't even have fun with it anymore because underdog removed his tight end eligibility. So misguided.
So sad.
Yeah, no, it's a bummer.
When did
Gonzalez retire? It might have been older than that.
No, he
was
played.
old.
37. Yeah, my bad.
He
Tony.
played for a long time.
I shorted you 3 years.
I wanted it on this 49ers one quickly. Are we taking Elijah Mitchell? I've been a little spooked on.
No, dude,
on
I'm a
this
Cody
one.
Schrader, bro.
Are you actually drafting him, or is that a bit?
He's legitimately going to be like sub 5% owned in Baseball Mania 5. I think it's like Guerendo is the Joe Williams, Cody Schrader is the one who makes the roster. That's all I need to know. I think the Elijah Mitchell is 80% drafted, Guerendo 40 to 50, Schrader legit 1%. It just feels right. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot.
He's definitely someone I'm monitoring. I wouldn't be drafting him now personally, but I don't know. I don't really know what to do with Elijah Mitchell. Like I can talk myself into Shanahan loving him. I can also talk myself into Shanahan hating him. I also didn't even put Jordan Mason on here. I think he's maybe a sneaky factor.
No, I mean he had his chance. Like they were very, very clear last year that Mitchell was the number 2 over Mason. So
yeah,
I think Mitchell's the number 2. You have to keep in mind who the 49ers are. They love running backs. They love drafting, acquiring them, everything. So what's the deal? Elijah Mitchell is on his rookie year, on his rookie deal. He's on the last year of it. So
but it's pretty clear why they want another running back, which is Elijah Mitchell has made it through 0 seasons healthy of his NFL career.
Right.
None.
He's the only guy who he doesn't even play in games, and then you'll find out next Thursday that he's injured, and you're like, how did this happen? He didn't even play.
That's so true. That's so true. What the hell's Elijah Mitchell doing on the injury report? See Christian McCaffrey at 100% snap rate last week.
It's so it's so true. You'd be like, wait, why is Jordan Mason getting what is going Tyrion Davis Price is in the game? What's the deal?
I know it from doing waivers last year is that every week I just have to write up Jordan Mason because be like, Elijah Mitchell DNP for 3 straight practices for some reason, even though he never plays. So
that's what this is about. And they're going to have Guerendo or Schrader available for those weeks, and probably Mason is off the team. But I think that they ride it out with Mitchell. They seem to like Mitchell when he's there. Now, clearly, they brought in CMC. They don't trust him to stay healthy. But I think as the number 2 back, behind CMC, you're in a championship window. Elijah Mitchell's trustworthy. He's the RB2, I think. I would be think how unsurprised you are to be sitting in August and find out that, Elijah Mitchell's basically exiting with, the first team. He's done. His night's over.
Gout.
Yeah.
Oh, he has gout. His night's over because he has gout. No, I meant they're resting him.
Oh.
Yeah, that they're resting.
I thought you were going down the injury path, but sure.
No. I'm going down the it's May. We think Guerendo and Schrader are interesting. In the preseason, we're going to see Guerendo play deep into the fourth quarter. We're going to see Schrader in the final preseason game, basically play the whole
Guerendo's getting 22 carries in preseason week 4 and then getting stashed on the practice squad. The chat,
that's what I'm saying.
The chat seems to be very upset by this. They're not.
Guerendo could be the kick return guy, right?
That's what they're saying. I mean, Guerendo was a fine kick returner in college. It's obviously it's all projection. I mean, I do want people to be aware of the guy they're drafting. This is a guy who played 5 seasons in college and got 1,400 rushing yards total.
Yeah, I think I'm siding with Crane. I think the market's overthinking this one, having Mitchell priced down so low. I would bump his odds up from the 60% I have now. It's just
people are just sick of it. People are just
they're just bored. They're just bored. They're just bored of it,
including the 49ers. The 49ers are bored. They're just wasting picks on running backs. But they're
And we should put more weight on Elijah Mitchell's rookie season. Again, it was somewhat marred by injury, but
he had 20 underdog points in week 17 last year. I know because those points counted for me on a team.
He was pretty good as a rookie when he wasn't injured.
He's been pretty good, just straight up. He's just been pretty good. Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about the Bears one. Let's talk about the Chiefs.
Wait. No. The Bears one's my favorite one.
All right. What do you have to say on the Bears?
It's Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is the answer here, guys. What are we doing? Khalil Herbert is good. And guess what? If it's not Khalil Herbert, it's because they traded him. Maybe he's the Cowboys guy. He actually seems like a dude who could.
I mean, that's the fan fiction. That's the fan fiction that everyone wants, is that he gets traded to the Cowboys. Yeah.
The other thing about Herbert is I think he's just straight up better than DeAndre Swift as a runner.
Probably. Yeah.
So
I think
you're giving me the best runner on the team for free at the end of drafts. I can't stop taking Khalil Herbert. I think he's an awesome pick.
The only problem I have with him, and I've been taking a lot of him, Crane, so I generally agree with you, is I don't know. It just seems like the team doesn't like him. And I don't really know why, but they keep bringing in people to replace him. It's a little muddled, but I think Swift, if there's a compliment to Swift that makes sense in this offense, it makes a lot more sense for it to be Herbert rather than Roschon. I don't think so.
No, I think it is Roschon because Roschon is the big body.
No, Roschon's the pass catching guy.
Yeah, I think of Roschon. Roschon is Samaje Perine. I think that's how you should think of Roschon.
That's literally
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think you wouldn't compliment DeAndre Swift with Samaje Perine. I don't think.
Perine started out his career as an early down grinder. Samaje Perine, fun fact, Big 12 all-time single game rushing yards leader, 470 yards against the University of Kansas.
Yeah, he was the grinder back with Joe Mixon in college.
Correct. Literally, yes.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave for a little bit, and I hope you guys will still be arguing about this Bears backfield when I get back.
Yeah, we got to save the Chiefs one for a day.
Yeah, we got to save the Chiefs. I mean, I don't. The other part with the Bears backfield is that I don't take any Roschon Johnson. I don't.
Yeah. No.
I don't get. I mean, now the counter, I suppose, is that if you think Khalil Herbert gets traded, then why wouldn't you take some Roschon? And then he banks a clear. I don't know if he's going to get traded. Is why I like him getting traded as a little extra, bonus layer on the bet when I'm betting on a guy I think is really talented in Khalil Herbert, or at least talented enough. But I think if he's there, he's playing ahead of Roschon. And honestly, I mean, he's kind of the Chuba to me. If I'm looking for a Chuba this year, which we probably don't get a Kyren, right? But we might get a Chuba.
Yeah, probably not.
He's very much in the Chuba mold, just straight up the best running back on the roster. And the team isn't that into it, but they probably will be by the end of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't really know what the market's obsession with Roschon is. It's kind of 2 years in a row where I just haven't got it. We don't have all the advanced stats on him. He didn't have enough rushes to qualify for NFL Next Gen, but you look at his PFF rush grade, it's pretty close to the bottom of the league. I think what he has going for him is he's a competent receiver. 34 receptions as a rookie. That's pretty good on a volume basis. Now, he didn't do anything with them. And the fact they brought in Swift just seems like a signal to me that they wanted to upgrade the pass catching role in this offense. So I think Roschon has a pretty thin path to relevance this season, particularly like I think he needs an injury to Swift in order to be relevant, or a trade of Herbert. But yeah,
I've also just get it. I mean, Roschon was supposed to be this kind of like, oh man, he's almost like Miles Sanders behind Saquon. Like he was stuck behind Bijan, but that's not really his fault because Bijan's so good. And he's going to come in here and be something in the NFL. And then he got drafted later than people were thinking he might. And then he like didn't do anything as a rookie, really. I mean, like, I don't know. I just like waiting for evidence that he's something. He hasn't really flashed ever. So and I think Herbert is good is really what it comes down to as well. 2 years ago, he had a 47% success rate. That was the fourth highest in the NFL. Last year it was lower, but still 42%, which is, they don't number these. What? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. RB11 in between Najee Harris, Zach Moss, just behind James Cook, Kyren Williams. So I don't know. He does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
He's not like the most explosive guy, but like that feels like it should be worth something in an offense that's going to mostly be built around a rookie quarterback, the most reliable running back. Seems like he might have a shot of earning more work as the season goes on.
Yeah, I agree. It's still so strange to me that DeAndre Swift got that contract he did after how he performed last year in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
that was odd to me. So, I don't want to compare it to the Miles Sanders situation. I think Swift has more left in the tank than Sanders did last year, but it would not shock me if by the end of the year, the Bears are like, oh, well, we made a big mistake with the Swift signing.
But why do you think that? Swift is coming off a worse year than Sanders was the year before.
Yeah, no, I guess I don't I guess I'm just saying, I think Sanders hit like a very low percentile outcome coming off that contract. Like, it's very rare for guys to get the money that Sanders got at his age and completely disappear. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Swift is going to completely fall off the face of the earth in a way that Sanders had, if that makes sense. If I didn't know Sanders was going to do that, I would have given them like equal odds of falling off.
I think Sanders was a better bet this year than Swift is. Like, I think I agree with you. Like, Sanders hit a really low percentile outcome to just completely get wiped off, but it was a very real possibility. But I think this is like even more of a real possibility. Like, keep in mind, he was drafted in the second round by the Lions, and then they gave up on him.
Yeah.
The Eagles got him basically for free because didn't they get a comp pick out of it too? And then where is he now? Not the Eagles. He's somewhere else. I know a third team did sign him and give him a weird amount of money, but like, I don't know. Yeah. Teams. I've been listening to Kevin Cole's pod, and he points out that like it's actually not that bad of an idea to just like make sure you get a running back in free agency, because then you don't spend your very, 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 very valuable upside capital, which is really what draft picks are, on running backs. So like, whatever, like waste some money on a free agent running back, make sure you get a guy to fill that role, and then don't draft anyone is actually kind of sharp. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. But like the money doesn't mean that much to me. He's a guy who's washed out of two different situations, hasn't really been that good. He showed some explosiveness early in his career, but it's been a while now. I mean, dude, think how explosive we would have expected him to be. Like the 2 years ago, DeAndre Swift in our minds entering the Jalen Hurts rushing attack. We're like, oh my God, he was boring as hell. He couldn't muster like any useful games last year.
It was weird too, because do you remember that first game, how good he looked and how good the offensive line looked? Like he was just running all over the field. I'm like, wow, this DeAndre Swift with the Eagles O-line, like this thing is really going to work. And then like, he just never looked good again. The rest of the season, like it was so weird watching that game. And then the rest of the season just being like, oh, he's nothing. Like it. So I think part of why I think I still have like leftover DeAndre Swift excitement in my mind just because of how we thought of him as a prospect. And it's probably best for me just to like completely throw that in the trash because of how bad he was last year. And like you pointed out, he washed out in the line situation. So
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have Najee Harris. I'd rather easily have like Jonathan Brooks.
okay.
I'm struggling with Swift. I'm definitely struggling to take Swift.
Yeah, I've been clicking him, even though I don't like him at all. So I'm glad that you're just reaching for those guys going farther ahead. I probably need to just stop taking him. Let's save the Chiefs one for when Davis gets back, because I think he'll have some thoughts there. We're now moving on to the next tier of running backs, and on this list is guys where the running back 2 is usually like not being drafted at all, or it's just completely uncertain who that's going to be. I started off here with the Texans. This is maybe the most certain of the uncertain situations. Dameon Pierce is getting drafted a little bit, but I don't know, man. Like they were playing Dare Ogunbowale over him in the playoffs. So I'm looking for an excuse to take someone else besides Pierce. How are you playing this one, Grain?
I've taken Pierce like occasionally on Stroud stuff where like I'm just like desperate for another running back, but it's like one of those ones where like, like I need to figure out a way to play this differently next time. I can't let that happen again. Like it's just not. Pierce is just not good. And I think Mixon is capable, and clearly the Texans do as well, because they could have let him play out this deal, and instead they gave him an extension before he suited up for a single snap for them. So I think, Mixon is so clearly better. It's really just contingent value that you would have kind of any appeal. If that contingent value materializes, is he even the guy? Is it Jordan? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Dare is a snap eater though, man. Like if you need someone to like play 60% of snaps in a pinch, like Dare can do it. And he plays special teams, so he'll be active and stuff. Like, I don't know. I struggle to get excited about Dameon Pierce, clearly.
I do too. It's so bad that, playoffs last year, their season on the line, Dameon Pierce doesn't register a snap. Dare Ogunbowale plays 30% of the snaps. That to me is like close to the death knell for Dameon Pierce. I think another underrated aspect of this is I think people sometimes underestimate like stylistically the different types of runners that are out there in the NFL. Dameon Pierce is a terrible fit for the Shanahan scheme. I'm not a ball knower enough to like tell you why, but basically everyone who knows ball says that. It's just like, yeah, he couldn't execute the Shanahan scheme. Devin Singletary could do it. Singletary's not that great, but like Pierce just straight up can't play in this offense. And that's what happened to him last year. It's the same offense. It's the same scheme. Like, I don't know. I think like he could get cut, traded. I just think the Texans are all the way out on Pierce at this point. So I don't have enough confidence to say, oh, you should be drafting Jawhar Jordan. Dare, I do think is just kind of a snap eater, not really someone who's fantasy relevant.
We can't ever draft Dare. But
yeah, Jordan is the guy I'm maybe keeping my eye on. Like, if he emerges throughout the summer, he's a guy that I'd be looking to click in August and September.
So Jordan is undersized college committee back, but he had 1.27 yards per route run, which is pretty good. 45% breakaway percentage, which is good. 193 pounds. But, there is a history of undersized, like breakaway runners with versatility doing well in Shanahan schemes, even if they're 6th round picks, which he was. So I would definitely have my eye on him in the preseason and training camp. If we start to hear any kind of drumbeat, I think he probably does become draftable, because like Dameon Pierce is about as weak an incumbent RB2 as we've got. Like I think the bar for what Jawhar Jordan has to do is like a lot higher than what Guerendo has to do to displace Mitchell to be the RB2, for example.
I agree with that for sure. Jumping here to the Colts, this is another interesting one. Jonathan Taylor, obviously the locked-in RB1 here. Then I'd say it's a pretty straight-up 3-man competition between Evan Hull, Trey Sermon, and Tyler Goodson. Hull was injured all of last year. We didn't really get a chance to see what he would do or what the Colts thought of him in this offense. both Sermon and Goodson got some run down the stretch when Taylor and Zach Moss were banged up. So this one, I'm not pretending to know who's going to win this. I would like it to be Hull. Obviously, he's the most exciting guy here. I don't have enough confidence though to be drafting Hull right now. I think you're running pretty high odds of dead roster spot risk. Curious what you think, Kyren.
I want to be in on Hull. I think he's exciting. He's very athletic. He ran a bunch of routes in college. He 9.32 RAS, 1.66 yards per route run. So he was efficient on high volume as a receiver. Not like his elusiveness was pretty good, and breakaway percentage was kind of whatever. But basically, you're kind of like betting on athleticism and versatility. But I do agree. I mean, we just don't know yet, and feels like kind of we could just be punting off a really valuable roster spot. But he would be like, I don't know, he might be like number one on my list of like, if I get the information that it's him, then I'm going to be really hammering it. Because like we didn't, like if we zoom out back to last year, we didn't know yet that it was Kyren. You know, we thought maybe it was Zach Evans. And so I would put him in that kind of bucket of like, as soon as we hear like, oh yeah, I think it's Evan Hull, like I'm drafting Evan Hull.
Yeah.
But we just don't know yet. And I think probably, I mean, one way to do it is instead of just maybe don't take a running back in this range, take a rookie receiver and prioritize like a Rico Dowdle or a Vidal who have like are truly in uncertain backfields and we know we'll get at least some chance to do something.
Where did you guys land on Jawhar Jordan?
Watch list. Like strong watch list candidate.
Strong watch list candidate. And Pierce, I think, is off my board. He's off my board completely, pretty much.
Well, shouldn't Joe Mixon's backup be higher than off my board and strong watch list, or is the Ogunbowale factor too big?
Yeah, it's that Ogunbowale can eat so many snaps if they need him to. He can come in and just play.
He can eat so many snaps without ever touching the ball.
He is the NFL's like ultimate snap eater. Like he cannot, like Devin Singletary wishes he could eat empty snaps like Dare Ogunbowale.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit, but I just don't think Pierce is a fit for this scheme at all. Like,
okay, but that's being too smart by half, isn't it?
Well, like, we saw last year, so
we saw it last.
We saw it last year.
Well. Like he was so bad and got replaced by like the most replaceable running back, and then Dare Ogunbowale like became the RB2.
Isn't Joe Mixon like maybe kind of sub Singletary-esque as a rusher though?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Singletary is the most replaceable, but also the most will replace you running back in the league too. Like you don't bring in Devin Singletary to not have him play 80% of the snaps in week 14.
Yeah,
that's what he's there to do.
Fucking guy's nickname is Motor.
Yeah, that's a problem. Imagine being Dameon Pierce, and then it's like, hey, here's the new running back. We call him Motor.
We call him Motor. I mean, I guess I don't think I'm that non-aligned with you guys. I just feel very strongly I'm going to get to the end of drafting season, and I'm going to be like, I just played this Houston Texans running back thing wrong, one way or the other, right? Either Joe Mixon learn 80% snaps and 10 touchdowns, buddy, or, oh, the guy who's really good as a rookie, actually, it doesn't matter that he doesn't know shit about the scheme, and he just is the most athletic guy left.
No, Pierce, I feel pretty good Pierce isn't like the way to play it. He could hit, because he could be there with two, and Mixon could get hurt, but, like, it's not. I don't think he's good. Pierce is not good.
The Texans are a prime candidate for when Jeff Wilson is cut by the Dolphins, when Samaje Perine is maybe.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So
this could be Herbert. If Herbert's mixing back up. This could be
Herbert. Yeah.
Oof.
Do we say enough on the Colts stuff? Davis, I don't think you got a chance to chime in. Any Colts?
Good pick.
Are you taking? I was with Crane that I really want it to be Hull, and he's a guy I will pounce all over, like in August and September.
Evan Hull and Dylan Laube are like the Spider-Man pointing meme, so that's where I land on that one.
Okay. Let's go to Texans here. This one we actually got.
Laube? Are you taking him?
Do I take Laube?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He's gonna worst case scenario, he's the passing down back. Best case, he's in like a 50-50 timeshare with Zamir
Isn't
White.
worst case just? I won't even say it.
Worst case
love-
is
Worst
I
case
love-
is he has plenty of time for pickleball.
yeah. Worst,
yeah, I was
worst
gonna
case
say,
is
isn't Amir Abdullah just?
he's on the practice
Dylan
squad while
Laube?
Abdullah is active. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Worst case is you're actually hanging out with Dylan Laube.
And you know what? If it's for the content, that's fine. That's fine. Here's the thing. Yeah, Sam, we did get some news on Tank Bigsby. I need this out there. No amount of Doug Peterson telling me he believes in Tank Bigsby is gonna make me fucking forget what I saw. I mean, this is the worst running back I've never seen a running back be this bad.
There's also like Sean Siegel has this particular like understated like, oh, you're into this guy, huh? Where you like, you know, like you're like, oh fuck, this guy's he doesn't have a shot in hell. And that's what I was like, yeah, Bigsby, you know, he's got like decent draft capital, pretty clear RB2 role. He's like, oh, that's okay, good luck.
I wish I pulled up his stats, but it was like I think he maybe had like 10 opportunities last year in terms of targets and touches, and had like 3 fumbles and 3 drops that turned into interceptions. Like that sounds like an exaggeration, but his stats were like not that far off from that. Like
there was
really...
there was a fumble 6, and there was a game clinching, like the Jaguars were driving to clinch the game and the ball bounced off his hands into an interception.
Yeah, I mean it's so bad that I wonder if Dearness Johnson is actually draftable.
Because I think Dearness Johnson he's just Dare Ogunbowale.
No, I think he's more like Khalil Herbert or something. Like he's
he can actually rush. You can actually rush and get touchdowns. Yeah, he can run a little.
No, he can't. Come on, guys. Dearness Johnson.
He's been good. Like I know he runs a 4.740, but he's been pretty good anytime he hits the field. He actually like can generate.
You don't remember that Thursday night game when Dearness Johnson played and
probably
really good like 4 years ago?
Sam, I don't think I'm ever gonna forget that game. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, he was so good.
Name a player who's had more free agency dollars spent on them ever in the history of fantasy football who's never been in a starting lineup than Dearness Johnson. I mean, how many $1 fab bids did you make on Dearness Johnson last year alone?
At least
I probably made a lot.
Yeah.
But he overtook Tank like pretty quickly last year. Like,
I'm not putting that as a ribbon in his cap.
No, I'm not either.
No, it's a ribbon as his cap if the task is overtake Tank, isn't it?
The more important question is Keilan Robinson was an Alabama to Texas transfer who really barely played, but was good at the combine, was a very good kick and punt returner in college, probably made the team for that. But given that the other guys are Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnson, isn't there a chance that the guy we know is going to be on the 53 to return kicks might just be the running back too? I mean, he couldn't be worse than Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point.
He had 12 carries as a 5th-year senior.
I'm literally getting ready to learn Keilan Robinson.
Hey, 12 carries but 3 touchdowns, buddy.
He played in 13 games as a 5th-year senior and had 12 carries. I'm
not telling you. I mean, he had about as many rushing yards in college as Isaac Guerendo.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but he came in the league this year, so we care. Next year, if you tell Guerendo next year, people are gonna be like, "Oh, that's disgusting."
Keilan Robinson is a rookie too. He's a rookie.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. I thought he was.
And weirdly, he was a 5th round pick too. We were just talking about Rasheen Ali. Yeah. He was a 5th round pick too.
Oh. I mean, this might be the guy. Davis might have just found the guy. Why aren't we excited about this guy?
I think
he's a kick returner. Come on, he's a kick returner.
Okay, but Raheem Mostert was a kick returner. Raheem Mostert was a fucking track athlete at IUPUI. All right, like guys who get to the NFL, it does not matter, right? Like running backs, it just doesn't matter if they get the ball. It's why arguing about Guerendo versus Schrader based on their college stats is stupid, because it just at the end of the day, it's going to be like whatever Kyle Shanahan decides.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not quite that true, because like you have to impress the coaches to get on the field. Right?
Sure.
There is some skill element, even though it's not like as a skill-based position as wide receiver or whatever. But I think we want to avoid writing off guys when they're completely free and we're like, it feels like someone could emerge. Kyren, right? The write-off thing was his athleticism. Oh, knowing that he's so unathletic, you couldn't possibly do anything, right? It's like, no, he is actually really unathletic, but like the opportunity is presenting itself, and there are some elements to his profile that are interesting. He was very productive in college in Kyren's case, and the team loved him. So I don't know. I think we should keep an open mind basically when the situation is this uncertain.
He's basically young Dare Ogunbowale. Like, this is a guy who like had multiple like punt blocks and stuff in college. Like that's the type of guy you're investing in.
4'4", 240, 125-inch broad jump, 5'8", 191. So he's is this the new who was the converted wide receiver that played running back for them, Davis?
Jamal Agnew? No.
No.
Jamal Agnew was a defensive back converted to wide receiver. Yes, Jamal Agnew. It was. Yes,
no. This is like 2017.
Denard Robinson.
He was
a quarterback.
He was a quarterback. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Is he? Denard Robinson.
Well, Denard Robinson would have been a good NFL player, but he couldn't put on enough weight. He was too small.
Yeah. Well, I'm keeping an open mind with this one. I really
big
don't.
watch list. I like his watch list.
Yeah, this is a big watch list.
This is the same sweat as Sion Vaki. Is like we got to see what position he gets listed at on the depth chart. Like we need to know. Like I need to look up like Jags OTAs. Like is this guy with the fucking defensive backs or is he with the running backs?
I just had a little mini sweat making sure Keilan Robinson was in the underdog player pool.
Is in the UD player pool.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of guys not in the player pool, we got to jump back to the Chiefs one. Davis, we skipped it while you were gone. I think I hate to say it, CEH he might be the best 18th round pick on the board.
He is the best.
He's a pretty good 18th round pick.
He's gonna be the RB2. Like he actually got guaranteed money. Like he didn't get one of those fake contracts. Like he actually got like $1.5 million guaranteed. That's backup running back money.
You know who he is now? He's Samaj P right now, an overdrafted guy. The expectations were too high on him early, and now he's just going to be for the next 5 years. He's going to go around and be a passing down back for whatever team the young guy we're excited about is. CH is signing a 1-year deal to go get in the way.
He's like Samaje Perine without Samaje Perine's only good trait, which is size.
He could be Jamaal Williams too. Like just one of these guys
Williams,
who are like, God, please.
Latavius Murray, Zach Moss, the current iteration of Zach Moss.
Yeah, he's totally. But by the way, this Rees-Zammit guy, he's 6'3".
Yeah.
He's 6'3", guys. He's like at best, I think he's probably like Cordell Patterson or something like kind of like designed-y, like
he's listed as a wide receiver at a lot of places.
Amico thinks they signed him to be. Amico thinks they signed him to just be like a special teams guy.
I think he's the kick return guy.
And like a punt gunner and like a blocker, like total Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, just weirdness. Now Keontae Ingram got waived. Not that it really matters. The chat keeps going insane about Amani Bailey. Just do yourself a favor. Go look at Amani Bailey's player profiler. Just go treat yourself to what Amani Bailey did at the combine. I think some people in the chat could beat Amani Bailey's Peter Overzet could beat Amani Bailey's combine in everything. Every number he could beat.
Is Deneric Prince dead, Davis? What's the latest on the Deneric Prince beat?
The third guy is just not going to matter this year. Pacheco is going to get a lot of work, and CEH is going to be the spell back.
Got it. McKinnon's not coming back for one last ride, you don't think?
He barely was like playing for them last year.
Yeah, he seemed pretty done, right?
He wasn't playing and then suffered a core muscle injury and then like tried to get back for the Super Bowl. Like we haven't even heard the chatter. Like last offseason, they were like, yeah, we'd like to have him back. And they just haven't even mentioned him this year.
Man, $1.3 million guaranteed for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like that's
kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot.
It's enough where you're like not cutting him for Deneric Prince or whatever. Like he's the RB2. And like you don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the roster to not be the RB2.
That's the thing is there's literally no reason on earth to re-sign the guy who's like kind of like a signal of failure for your organization if you don't like just need a guy who like kind of knows the system, knows the pass protections, knows the quarterback. Like it's just all very obvious.
Yeah, he's a good pick. I don't get why he goes this late
because we're bored, dude. We're very
bored. No, I have him too low. Even like he's so boring. But you're right. I mean, he is the RB2 there, so we should draft him.
And the thing is, he doesn't need to be good. Like on the Chiefs, we've seen him do it. Was it 2 years ago where he started the season just like red hot on touchdowns, or was that even last year? Now I'm forgetting.
It was 2 years ago. He scored 20 points in week 16 this last year. His only start, the only game Pacheco missed.
He doesn't need to be good. Like he can.
No one needs to be good. That was the whole thesis for why he was a first-round pick as a rookie. Anyway, it doesn't matter who's good in the backfield. Like, do you guys remember? Not Dameon. Dameon, I think, was good. Do you remember Darrell Williams? Darrell Williams was the most Dare Ogunbowale-ass running back ever, and he would just score 2 touchdowns every week.
Do you guys remember the Black Mirror episode where they there's like soldiers and they've got like they have like something in their eyes, like it changes like their perception.
It changes what you're seeing.
Imagine like when we finally, because we've had one of those on with CEH called the Joe Burrow LSU offense with Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson, and then we just traded it for another one called Patrick Mahomes and the fucking Chiefs. Imagine when we finally take it off and see what CEH really is.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire playing in the, I don't know what's a funny one. He ends up being the third down passing back for like the Chargers with Justin Herbert and Gus Edwards, and it's just like, oh god,
this one was dark. This is a dark episode.
I thought of a good feature for Underdog. They should have the ability to like change a player's name in the player pool. Like I want to change CEH's name to something else, so when I draft him, I won't think of CEH.
I just took Clyde. Yeah.
There needs to be a way, because even though I'm saying he's a good pick, like it's still going to be so hard to click him.
What if you just put like a little R next to him so you can pretend he's a rookie?
What if you just
take his picture away so I can pretend he's a rookie?
What if you pretended his name was Deneric Prince?
I would have 90% of him if I pretended his name was Deneric Prince.
I actually think that's something we could get done. Josh Downs doesn't have a picture for some reason. So why doesn't Clyde Edwards-Helaire not have a picture? We should petition Underdog to remove Clyde Edwards-Helaire's picture.
If he was just KC RB2, like someone just put in chat, if he was just KC RB2, he'd go ahead and Marshawn Lloyd.
Honest to God, he would.
He would.
Yeah. He would. Yeah. No, I just raised.
I love the Rashee Rice and the Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing. It's like the only time that me being a biased homer allows me to make the correct gambling decision. Whereas most of the time it's me doing the wrong thing, but I love when I get to make the emotional decision and it's actually right. It's amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I just hate that I became a best ball DGen after the Patriots stopped being good. It would have been nice to have best ball like 15 years ago.
I mean, even the end of the Brady era was not that fantasy friendly. It would have been like been, we're talking like 8-9 years ago when it would have been real winning.
That would have been really good. The Randy Moss year, that would have been great. All right, let's hit on the last couple of these. Do we want to talk Raiders? I feel like we're kind of a little biased maybe on this one, but
I can't give you guys a good answer here.
Yeah, I'm not clicking any of these guys, even though Zamir White definitely not one of the strongest starters in the league, but I don't know, man. Like, what do you win when you win with this one? Kyren, you have any thoughts?
I mean, it's not Mattison. There's no point in clicking Alexander Mattison. Laube, I've been intrigued by because I thought he was actually like a pretty solid prospect, specifically because of the pass catching stuff. Like he pops for me. Now he pops as a 4th round rookie pick type, so not like off the charts, but he was a total backfield dominator. 1.81 yards per route run is really strong. Not like quite like elite stuff like Gibbs or Rashad White or whatever, but very good. And he ran a ton of routes, 24 routes per game. That's that's like a nice combo for a dude to come in who's pretty clearly, I think, going to be like special teams and receiving is his role. And then Alexander Mattison should be, Alexander Mattison peaked as a good RB2. He got the chance to be an RB1. It was a disaster. He joins a new team. I think Laube could pretty easily be the RB2, and he catches passes, but I don't know. Yeah, this also does sort of have a little bit of a rookie fever vibe, doesn't it?
It does a little, and it's just like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but was Dylan Laube not like a pretty bad rusher at UNH, or at least not like a good one?
Yeah, he was not a great
I think the film guys especially really did not like him as a runner.
That's what I worry. That's what I worry about. It's like
people said that, but Brugler
the numbers are okay.
Brugler was really high on him in the Beast. He was like the Beast stuff is like very glowing. I mean, he led all of college football in total yards if you include kick and punt returns.
His elusive.
That's a big if.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Who includes that?
You don't include that.
I do.
That almost got by me because I was looking at his elusive rating. Sampling.
I mean, look. Here's the thing. It's a fun pick. All he has to do to be fantasy relevant is to beat out Amir Abdullah for passing downs. And that is not that high of a hurdle.
Yeah. I mean, I guess rookie Brandon Bolden isn't the worst thing in the world.
Brandon, you joke. Brandon Bolden has had fantasy relevant.
He actually has. He's been like wildly fantasy relevant over his
multiple
his
times.
Times.
It's like, so we just did the whole Jaleel McLaughlin bit. I mean, if you told me Laube was on the Raiders roster week 1, like he just was on the, like not even the 53, like active week 1, I might take more Laube receptions than McLaughlin, really. Because if he makes the roster, it's in a very specific role. Like they know exactly what he's making it for.
The problem is just the wide receivers and tight ends are gonna take up such a huge share of the pass catching in Las Vegas compared to Denver. I mean, that's where I think I would disagree. Is that they're not going to be scheming up the pass game through the running backs in this offense. I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, it's probably Minshew or Connell, so they'll be dumping off some. So
I mean, Minshew is a real dump off artist.
Yeah. I just think they'll be dumping off to Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer and Trey Tucker and all these guys, but I see what you're saying. With the quarterback fit, it's not bad for a pass catching running back. I think these next two teams, I think these are, to me, more interesting watch list candidates because the Jets and Eagles both project to be playoff teams this year in the NFL, and no one's really drafting the running back twos. We'll start here with the Jets.
I am.
You're drafting Braylon.
You've been drafting Braylon Allen the whole time.
The thesis,
the
thesis did not change, bro. He's better than Abanikanda. I kind of like Isaiah Davis, but like, there's not going to be a camp competition between.
Is he better than Abanikanda?
Yeah.
This dude might run a 4.7.
Who cares, bro? He's big. He's strong. Braylon Allen is what they wanted to do with Dalvin Cook. Remember them just running Dalvin Cook in the line time after time after time last year? Is like, oh, Dalvin Cook, it's crazy. He was on the team. Dalvin Cook last season for the Jets got 67 carries before they waived him and 20 targets. Like, obviously, Brees ended up getting a ton, and they ended up benching Dalvin Cook for Michael Carter. But
and then cutting Carter. How crazy is that?
Yeah, there is. I would say conservatively about 100 rushes and 35 running back targets available behind Brees. And I think those will be valuable targets, especially because Rodgers has always been a cheat code for running backs. Like, running backs who play with Rodgers get tons of free points. I think Braylon Allen's good. No one else agrees with me, but my thesis remains the same.
I don't disagree that Braylon Allen could be good. You're definitely higher on him than I am, but I also think Isaiah Davis is like kind of interesting.
I do too.
Yeah, and I thought Abanikanda was a pretty interesting prospect last year who to my eye, looked pretty good when he was out there. We don't have like any of the advanced stuff because he
sounded
was
like
out
an
there for a little.
attitude thing with him. It sounded like the coaches were not if I remember correctly. That could be, maybe I'm slandering him for no good reason, but in my memory, that is what happened when the Dalvin Cook stuff came out. It seemed to be like personality based.
Maybe I'm slandering him for no good reason is up there with obviously.
Well, I can't.
That is a really good one. Yes.
You want me to go? I can't.
Yes,
dig
I mean,
through.
if you're gonna, if you can find it, it'd be great.
All right,
It'd be great,
I'll go
like
dive through
I wanna
week
know.
4 preseason notes from the fucking New York Jets last offseason.
I'm excited to hear what you find.
Is he
yeah.
a Abanikanda attitude?
I mentioned the dynasty tiering of these guys. Abanikanda, Braylon Allen both come out as 3rd-round picks to me, and Isaiah Davis is a 4th-round pick. So to me, I'm like, here's 3 dudes. They're all kind of interesting. They all have red flags. Abanikanda, you'd say, is probably the least likely, given that he had a shot, and then they drafted 2 dudes. So it's probably not him, but it could be Davis. It's not a 0% chance to be Abanikanda, who's actually got some athleticism, unlike Allen. So I don't know. I think these are all watch list guys, and we see who the RB2 is, and we draft that dude. But I wouldn't put it at much higher than like 40% that it's Allen.
Yeah,
what did you got at 30? Yeah, I think that's about right.
I think I put
40.
30 because, I think it's a third, or maybe you want to say 35, 30 or something, right?
Something like that.
I think, honestly, I don't think the Jets know who their RB2 is right now. So this is pure watch list territory for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach Rosenblatt, in most recent Jets roster battles article, says the coaches do not trust Izzy Abanikanda, which is code word for they think he's thick.
Yeah.
That's not great. And it would make a lot of sense given how athletic he is and how explosive he is.
And how bad their team is, and they spent 2 picks on a running back when they already have Breece Hall. The Jets are like seriously gonna have to play like Jason Brownlee at wide receiver this next year. Like they have nothing, and they are spending picks on running backs.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing we didn't even discuss. It obviously just comes down to who Aaron Rodgers wants in the field. So that's what we got to figure out at some point this offseason. Let's go to the Eagles here. Last one we have on this list. Pretty muddled. I think it's basically down to Shipley and Kenny Gainwell. Ty Davis-Price also lurking around. I wouldn't really put any odds on him of winning it. But, yeah, you guys have a lean on Shipley versus Gainwell in Philadelphia?
Gainwell.
Okay.
I would put this one at like 50% Gainwell.
Yeah, Gainwell, this should maybe be on the other list. It's just Gainwell's he's almost like Dare Ogunbowale. Like he's just a snap eater who doesn't.
Well,
do
now
anything.
he's Boston Scott. Now it's he gets to eat Boston Scott snaps and just be out there 30% of the time. I don't even think he's a good pick, but
like basically any running back stat you want to look at over the past 2 years, like Kenny Gainwell's always ranking like close to dead last. Like he's just really not good. But the Eagles like him, so I don't know.
Yeah, and like, there is kind of a thing with running back where for an RB2, there's something to be said for a guy who you just throw out there and he doesn't screw anything up and he runs the play he's supposed to run and no one gets sacked or whatever. Like they signed Saquon Barkley. They clearly don't want to lean on Gainwell, but like if you have Saquon Barkley, like, are you trying to like mix in a rookie behind him, or you just like be like, all right, and we know Kenny Gainwell can do the job, so it's his job.
Where did Will Shipley get drafted? He was actually 4th round. That is kind of interesting. That's the same draft capital as Bucky, Irving, Ray Davis, guys that we're much more confident in. I guess I'm curious. I don't have an answer to this question. Like, what is it about Shipley that makes us so much less interested in him than someone like Davis, Irving?
I mean, I think he's like a slightly worse prospect by my stuff, but not that.
I was going to go with
worse.
his name is kind of bad, right? Will Shipley.
I mean,
yeah.
He's a guy that, like, I know Sean Siegel really liked as like, kind of the Devy side of things and was seen as this potential star, and then it didn't really come together fully. He ran a bunch of routes. He's kind of like a passing down guy, but he had a 0.95 career yards per route run, which is not. It's not horrendous in college, but it's not good.
He ended up in a timeshare his final year in college, which always that to me always weirds when it's you end up in a timeshare your last year with a younger player. That's kind of always
the TJ Yeldon.
It's like, what's going on there? That can't be like what like this other random guy we thought was better than you. That's always weird.
Yeah. No, I mean, but he does seem to like be maybe a little bit more high upside than Ray Davis, where it's like he's like if one of these guys was like a true star, who would not? And I'm not talking about like because they get like a bunch of short goal line carries, but like one of these dudes is like, oh shit, this dude's really good. It's probably Shipley and not Davis, right?
Probably. And the other thing that's weird about it is like, to me, the stylistic compliment to Saquon Barkley would be like the success rate guy, right? The guy who can like get the short yardage stuff, and neither Shipley or Gainwell really profile as that. So
I think Gainwell kind of does, or does he not? Was his success rate horrendous?
I actually don't know. He strikes me more as like the pass catching archetype. I haven't really looked into the success rate stuff on him.
I don't think he's qualified neither year for the NFL Next Gen stuff. So
yeah, he's just bad, dude. He's just bad at everything, honestly. Like, look at his PFF rush grade is like close to dead last, even if you broaden it to like people with over 20 carries. Like, it's really bad. Yeah. But yeah,
okay. I would
want to draft
remiss...
Shipley.
No,
I'm kind of intrigued. Shipley's watch list guy for me.
That makes sense.
But yeah,
we've gotten 2 hours into ADP chasing, and we've probably not touched on the number one uncertain backfield to figure out, given the amount of carries and points available, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, we can go to that. I'm playing it through Vidal and Gus Edwards, and I'm basically pretending J.K. Dobbins doesn't exist.
So I'm doing the same thing, but
I'm
like
doing the same thing too.
But isn't there just like a pretty disastrous chance that we're wrong?
It does. I sometimes see J.K. Dobbins go by, and I'm like, that would really suck if he's there.
J.K. Dobbins. Like, imagine finally J.K. Dobbins gets healthy, and he just stays healthy, and he just plays 17 games and just shoves it.
It's just the one, like, first year off the Achilles tear. I'm just going to need to have that running back beat me before I ever bet on it at this point. Like, it just seems like such a fact that the running back off the Achilles tear is just such a bad bet that, man,
Didn't
if it happens,
kind of beat us?
No.
Like, we survived it, but he kind of beat us, right?
Who did?
Did he? Didn't he, like, completely lose his job the next season? He came back for the playoffs.
He came back. He had that week. I think it was week 15 or 16. He had some
James Robinson could have beaten us, but then he got benched.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about, Grant. He was awful that year. Like, basically was the worst pick on the board, and then just randomly had a good week in like week 15.
Yeah, no, 16. I don't remember where he was drafted, and if it was with any capital whatsoever, then he didn't beat us because he was like a fifth.
Game. He was like a 5th or 4th round pick. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But week 16, he had 23 carries, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 receptions, 29 yards through the air. So that would really fucking suck if it comes from J.K. Dobbins at this price, is my point. Not that we should ignore Achilles, but like it does make it also, like, and that was Cam Akers, who's not good.
But Dobbins also, man, like Dobbins never came back really from the multi-ligament ACL tear either. Like, you have to take so many hoops.
What do you mean?
Like,
didn't he tear his Achilles like the first game of last year? So that's not really fair. Like he came up the multi-ligament and then tore his Achilles like the first game.
No, there was a full season in between that, Crane.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, and he just was like in and out of the lineup, and like not very good. I don't know.
Yeah, he looked real gimpy that one game, and he like
yeah.
He got the surgery again. Yeah, you're right. There was a whole year. It would be like go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, if Dobbins was literally like an 18th round pick, I wouldn't completely fade him. Again, I don't want to just come back to like Tyler Algier and Antonio Gibson for every pick, but it's just like, I don't know. I'm not going to take J.K. Dobbins. I just don't think a running back coming off an Achilles tear is going to beat me. And there's running backs in that range that I think are just pretty solid picks. So Vidal's also right there. I don't know.
Kamani Vidal, sadly though, would fit in really nice as the third leg to the Justice Hill, Darwin Thompson, Kamani Vidal running backs who win in the 7th round of the FFPC main event and then never had one startable fantasy game as a rookie. I just sadly can see in my crystal ball and see that trilogy being written.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think J.K. Dobbins' dead cap hit is this year? 1 year deal is under the Chargers.
$50,000. I know
That's
it
exactly
is.
right. Yeah.
I knew it. Yeah.
50,000.
Yeah. You can either win. You could J.K. Dobbins gets cut and wins one puppy. Wins the puppy one.
Yeah.
Slow drafted on the plane.
That contract is like an extended tryout.
Yeah.
Like he's not even on the team yet.
Again,
no, he really should be treated like a camp invite or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a camp invite contract. Like it is. Yeah. I don't know. Vidal is normally somewhere I'd be like, what are we doing? Like this dude was he's a 6th round pick, very kind of whatever prospect, but like I'm sick of just like I'm just not gonna do it. If he's Dameon Pierce, that's enough. If he's literally rookie season Dameon Pierce, it's enough. Like he can come in here, he can take the job for a year. You know, if he's like a little worse than Pacheco, more than enough. Like the bar is just so low for what even has to be. I mean, Gus Edwards, like I know Gus Edwards has been somewhat efficient, but you're tied to Lamar Jackson as a 2-down banger. Like, yeah, you should probably be pretty efficient. I don't know that it's gonna go as well. I mean, you know, Justin Herbert's a good quarterback, but he's not going to open up lanes the way Lamar Jackson did. So I think Vidal, I mean, he's a true, like, you're swinging for a homer or you're striking out, but the homer's real. Like, we probably don't find a Kyren Williams, but if there's anyone who could be like a James Robinson, this is the James Robinson archetype.
Yeah.
And bull signal, we can't agree on how to pronounce his last name, just like we couldn't agree on how to pronounce A-Chain's last name.
That's right. Yeah. I think it is Vidal. I just keep saying Vidal. But yeah, I mean, remember the Jaguars that year, we were into Devin Azigbo and
Ryquell Armstead.
Yeah.
Ryquell Armstead, by the way, this is such inside fucking fantasy football history. He maybe could have been the guy. He got long COVID and was like in the hospital the whole season.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy. Fucking nuts? This is such a dumb game we play. And like, why do I even remember that? But
it's actually so crazy that. So wait, it was Fournette got cut. That's what started the whole thing. And then everyone was so confident it was either a Zigbo or Armstead. Like people weren't really talking about Robinson.
James Robinson, even in main events like that, like were taking place like as the season was starting, he was like a 10th round pick at the absolute earliest.
Yeah. No, I mean, John C in the chat asks how Dobbins is not the home run, especially at the lowest ADP. I mean, certainly Dobbins could be a home run, but it just feels like with the Achilles tear, it's sort of like he's less of a home run and more like trying to throw the football over the mountains sort of like vibe. Like it feels like a real long shot to me, but I don't know. I mean, that's why I brought up the Cam Akers thing where like the bar is very low for what you even need. Like if you got one spike week at the end of the season, you know, with the lowest ADP of the three, like that would probably be enough. It's just, I kind of don't even think he makes the team.
I kind of don't think he does either. What's also different about the Akers thing is we saw Akers come back in the playoffs the season before he got drafted pretty highly. So we'd already seen him come back and he wasn't great in the NFL playoffs when he came back, but he was used as like a workhorse. It was actually kind of crazy how they used him down the stretch coming off that Achilles. Man, like, yeah, I get what John in the chat is saying, but like, you can't think of J.K. Dobbins like as the prospect anymore. Like he's coming off the two worst injuries you can have as a running back, a multi-ligament ACL tear and an Achilles tear. Like he's just not going to be the same guy.
He also is not the the guy that people thought he was, even when he played, especially with Greg Roman. He never really caught passes ever at Ohio State or in Baltimore.
I mean, also it sucks because he's dealt with so many injuries, and he never really got to play out his rookie season. But he's also like, he turns 26 this year. Like, he's probably like in a world where he stayed healthy and probably like, I don't know, he slowed down last year. I think he's falling off.
Isn't that so, like, if he was just like finishing out his rookie contract, we would be like, I don't know, man. I'm probably more interested in this Vidal guy anyway. He
would literally be going in like pick 85, and I'd be talking about him like I just talked about DeAndre Swift, and I'd be drafting some dude in the last round as his backup. Like, I don't know, to then bet on a dude entering a second contract after this injury history. Like look, man, if they had given him like a 2-year deal with like $3 million guaranteed, I would be singing a different tune. But like, this is legit cut risk, like out of the league risk potentially. Like, they didn't give him any money.
Yeah. The last team I wanted to talk about here, or we can talk about both these teams if we want, but you said, Kyren, if there's anyone who's going to be a James Robinson, a Kyren Williams this year, Vidal is on the short list. Another guy I would put on that short list is D'Onta Foreman. And maybe that's a little bit too.
He's going to be this year's D'Onta Foreman.
He could also just be this year's D'Onta Foreman, but I think we have pretty good evidence now. Okay, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth now because D'Onta Foreman, speaking of Achilles tears, he is like the one guy to come back.
It took him like 4 years though. Like,
and
it took
correct. It took him a really long time, but he's just been so good as a rusher the past couple seasons. Now teams haven't really wanted to commit to him, but last year he did have a game of 33 PPR points. I think he had like 3 touchdowns in that game. I just think he's straight up a better rusher than Jerome Ford. And if Nick Chubb isn't coming back till, I don't know, week 8, week 9, week 10, that gives Foreman a lot of time to have a lot of usable weeks. And then you get the upside if Chubb can't come back from that knee injury. Again, it's a really unique, like devastating knee injury that Chubb is coming back from. I think he does have some upside of just being like the lead rusher of the entire season. So yeah, he's a guy I'd throw in the mix as being potentially, a big hit from the later rounds of running back.
I think it's a great call. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of money. This dude has been like just continually disrespected by the league. Like, he just, every year he gets an opportunity, he looks good, and then he's on a new team. I don't really get it. Like, I remember the Titans chose Dontrell Hilliard over this dude. And then he's been like, that was 2 productive seasons ago. Like, I don't get that part of it at all, but like, this is a really good situation for him to kind of emerge ahead of Jerome Ford, who, they kind of trusted. He was one of these very trusted RB2s, but did not look very good in a bigger sample. I don't think Chubb is going to be the same coming off the knee tear. Like, he's an older back already. Second time he's had a multi-ligament knee tear in the same knee. I think Foreman is a pretty good pick. I think he's a pretty good pick.
It's also one of those things where you need to be thinking like portfolio based, as opposed to even like specific teams. Like, if you have no Nick Chubb and no Jerome Ford, what is it that you're saying? Are you saying the Browns won't run? The Browns won't be successful running? It's like, and I found myself in that position just kind of the last couple of days thinking about it. Like, well, I hate Chubb's ADP, and Jerome Ford seems like a bad pick. So what is it that I'm hoping to accomplish here? But just like projecting the Browns to not be a successful offense or running the ball. So maybe I need to start taking Ford.
I take Ford a little bit, and mostly when I have like a Jonathan Brooks or something like that, but he goes a little too high. I think Foreman's the way to play it because he's the best of the two, right? Like, if Chubb comes back and he's Chubb, he's obviously way better than Foreman. But if your bet is kind of that you're not buying that, then I think Foreman is probably the more talented running back between him and Ford.
I think he is as a rusher. I guess we'll see how much the Browns trust him to do everything in their system, but yeah, just as a pure rusher, I think it's pretty clear that Foreman's more talented than Ford. So yeah, I agree with you, Davis. That's a good point. I haven't been taking either Chubb or Ford. I guess last question I have for you guys in this backfield, like, at what ADP does Nick Chubb start to get interesting? Because I do think we might get a window where he's draftable once the news comes out that he's on the PUP list. We always know the market is going to double count these things. Like, I'll throw out an ADP. If Nick Chubb is going at ADP of 130, are you guys?
Yeah, once he gets past Chase Brown, then I'll take him.
We've had him at 120 in the rankings the entire time. One of the few guys where a handful of guys where ADP has no say at all. He's just chilling in the rankings. ETR actually, I think, is right around there as well. So I don't know if the market comes down there. I would mix in some because the one thing you can say for Chubb is that the production will be back weighted. So
sure,
if I can mix him in as purely like kind of like around where I'm thinking about Gus Edwards, but instead of like a guy who hopes like a Jonathan Brooks come along and have upside late in the season, Chubb provides like some shaky, but at least some late season upside to a backfield where maybe I feel like I have more than enough early season stuff.
I think that's right.
All right.
Wait, we got to talk Cowboys.
Okay.
I said there's not going to be a Kyren this year but there might be a James Robinson, and that was James Robinson could be Vidal, right? The rookie guy, the unheralded rookie. But second year guy who just might straight up be the starter, it's Dowdle. Dowdle might just straight up be the starting running back for the Cowboys.
Kyren, he's a fourth-year player, so it's not not exactly one-to-one.
Second year that I've known about him.
Second year that he's gotten touches on NFL field.
Someone.
I love the idea of Kyren just like manually tagging players in his database, not based on how many years they've been on the league, just based on how many years he's known about him.
How many years I've known about him.
Now, to be fair, before last season, he had a grand total of 7 NFL touches, and I don't believe he played in 2022 at all, other than on special teams.
They just were not concerned at any point in the offseason about filling the running back hole, and then they filled it with Ezekiel Elliott, who's we know, like we saw Zeke. We know he can be a PPR scam. I think if you're taking Zeke, so am I. It's not a big deal. We can do it. But Dowdle's going after Zeke now, and like by what? There's like a decent ADP gap of over 10.
Yeah, 15 picks. Yeah,
15 picks. Dowdle, I think, is like you're getting the RB2. I mean, who's displacing him? He was the clear-cut RB2 last year behind Pollard. It's not going to be Deuce Vaughn. So you're getting the RB2 for sure. And there is some chance that he's just the start. So I don't know. To me, he's like a very, very easy click right now. Did we do the closing line value on him yet? Because that would be a guy that I want to pick up.
I don't know. Someone took Zeke. I forget if someone took Dowdle.
I think someone took Zeke. I'm going to take Dowdle.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best picks too. I haven't been taking him like in every draft because in the pre-draft stuff, I literally was taking him in every draft. Like he was going at pick 180, 190. I'm like, guys, even if they draft Jonathan Brooks, like Rico Dowdle can still be a great pick at pick 180, 190. Like I don't get how he's possibly going this low. I still don't get how he's going at pick 142. My only guess is that the market is baking in some like Samaje Perine, Jeff Wilson, Khalil Herbert stuff. But come August, September, if these are the two guys on the team in the backfield, they should both be going like pick 100. Like or maybe earlier. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. The second like thought experiment I think is interesting to do with Dowdle is he was the clear RB2 all of last year. We just kind of got unlucky in that Tony Pollard, even though he was bad, he was healthy enough to play a full season. So we never got the Rico Dowdle spot start. If we just got like one Rico Dowdle spot start last year where he had 20 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown, which easily could have happened if Pollard was injured, where would he be going? Like if we just got one of those spot start games, like I think like a lot
higher, right? I mean, he'd probably be going where
where Chase Brown is at least, right?
At least. I mean, no, I mean, he could be going where like Zach Moss is, or like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, he's probably up around there. Maybe a little bit behind. Maybe he's the last guy in that tier. Yeah, but like 40 picks higher with one spot start. I agree. I think it's a good point.
Yeah. All right. 2 hours 10. We're fully back in ADP chasing.
I was gonna say the back levels are so fucking high. We are.
It's a slow week. Nothing to talk about. 2 hours 10 minutes later.
You know what? We need to unironically do next week, or do we have a guest for next week, Sam?
Next week we're still figuring out next week. It's Memorial Day, so we're TBD on what's going on next week.
So next time we do a show, whenever that is, sometime I can't do Tuesday. Or so when we do it, we should unironically, without prefacing, there actually probably isn't going to be a Puka Nacua this year. We should do our who could be this year's Puka Nacua analysis.
Yeah, that's a good topic for a show. I like
probably
that.
No one else. Probably no one else.
No one else is doing that. No. I'll tell you this much: no one else is talking about Keilan Robinson on May 20th.
Dude,
we're the only show.
Someone put a timestamp in that, because I just want something to victory lap in week 4 when Keilan Robinson has 8 carries for 23 yards and a touchdown in a blowout Titans victory.
I'm excited.
All right, couple announcements. We have That's Fair merch. I believe you can find that in the show notes, but Pete just put that out. So if you want to get That's Fair tees,
John C hit me with a That's Fair earlier with my J.K. Dobbins point.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Derogatory, I believe.
I think it was derogatory. If it's in quotes, that's a good sign. That's
a very good sign. It's derogatory.
Yeah. So you can get your That's Fair tees. Like I said, we'll probably be back next week on Tuesday because of the holiday. I'll have an update about that later. Otherwise, if we take a week off, we will certainly be back on the 3rd. Crane, anything you want to say about Legendary Upside? Anything else you got going on?
Yes, sign up for Legendary Upside. Got underdog rankings, DraftKings rankings updating every day. Launching FFPC rankings. Got Connor Dricko helping out with those.
Nice.
So we got you got to have someone drafted in the FFPC streets regularly. I when I try to get in the FFPC streets, I forget that I have a team going, and then it auto drafts. So Dricko's actually in there observing his drafts. So we got him helping out on the ranks. Those are going to be launching this week. Articles from Sacrilegious, Stephanie Miller this week as well. And head over to legendaryupside.com/perks. You can see how you can get a $50 underdog credit with the yearly subscription.
Awesome. Davis, anything? Take Cast, anything else you want to mention?
No, Take Gas, Sports Grid Fantasy Football Podcast, all the goods. Actually, I think I'm going to bring back the newsletter this summer.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, for non-fantasy football, like super specific stuff, more
cool. The Leone style.
I'm gonna copy Mike. That's the idea. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll keep drafting. You'll see me in the streets. If you're drafting 5 puppies at any given time over the next week, you'll probably run into me.
Oh, I'll see plenty of you, Davis.
All right, good stuff, guys. We'll see you all next week. Peace.